My toxic managers literally do nothing at work, constantly barking orders at me and my coworkers, while also doing nothing to assist us when we're incredibly busy. But after my manager sends me home after he thinks I'm not doing any work, this restaurant falls into disarray, as they literally have to close this restaurant over the summer just to figure out how they're gonna save their business. And I'm honestly so satisfied walking away from this job because these people were the absolute worst. Here's what happened. I want to start things out by saying that I worked at a restaurant, and at this restaurant we had a front salad bar, a buffet with a salad bar, as well as things like a juice bar and ice cream counter, and a small alcohol room with a bar. And this place was so popular even though it was expensive, but somehow we were still underpaid, understaffed, and poorly managed. Now, a woman I will call Jenny is the daughter and the only child of the owners of the restaurant. She is extremely spoiled, she almost always gets her way, and she has a temper where she will get pissed off and just lay into the person for an hour straight. She used to come in screaming at everyone for nothing, and straight up made awful or just nasty jokes. She would push people to come in sick and then ask why they were so slow. You know, just your typical nightmare manager. Now, one of the kitchen managers, who we will call Marco, is the son of a family friend and a beloved member of the community. His management consisted of micromanaging, criticizing our work, blaming random people for things, giving extra time constraints for tasks, encouraging everyone to smile, and going around asking people while they're in the middle of working their 3 jobs when they wanted to come in the next day or if they'd like to cover a shift on Saturday or whatever. He would forget to do things and then blame other people. Then he would go around criticizing people for their time management or responsibility. Anytime we reported that something was broken or something wasn't working, he just told us to figure it out and nothing would be done about it until Jenny came in screaming at everyone and narrowed it down to Marco. Now, we had other managers come in and out, but they simply couldn't take it. There were people who were suddenly hired to take on big positions despite having no idea what they were doing, or join with less than a full day of training just because the place was desperate. The waitresses were paid less than $4 an hour, and some of them were doing part of the dishwasher's duties, front manager duties, cleaning jobs including kitchen and employee bathroom, and I want to say that dishwashing was the worst, as 3 different people would come to work drunk or high every day just to tolerate everything. My coworker, who I will call DJ, kept up even when other dishwashers weren't working. He helped me or other waitresses clean and literally had to monitor food that was cooking, and he'd keep track of orders because the manager Marco and the chef wanted to mess around or go stand by the door and smoke. There were days where staff members would break down or get sick pulling a double shift, and he did everything for them. I mean, there was no choice. Now, my job was preparing and filling food items for the main salad bar in front every day, and some days I also did salad bar in the buffet. I had other things to do as part of my normal salad buffet job, including making food for reservations, preparing and stocking the juice bar, and helping move stock into the freezers and the fridge. On top of that, I was packing non-salad food for delivery and takeout, helping maintain and stock up to half the buffet, helping waitresses keep up with serving and bussing, doing ice cream and desserts, cleaning the whole kitchen and storage areas and customer bathrooms, helping the bar staff, helping at the front desk whenever I was out, and preparing ingredients or fetching things for the normal chef and buffet chefs. I did all of this for little more than a minimum wage. I fell down every day because I was running on wet floors, and I had a heat stroke and even had to go to the ER for injuries. On buffet days, I had a partner, but that just simply didn't matter. She just stood around right in front of the manager, Marco, talking to her cousin who worked there while just watching me work, and both she and Marco would take breaks every now and then to criticize my work or my speed. Everything was held together by DJ and me. We were teenagers on rockstar drinks, so we took whatever was coming to us. We kept everything going so well that we got scheduled to work almost every day and then every weekend. Jenny gave us free soda privilege, and we got raises 2 times in 5 months, which were only 10 cents, but it did look good to me because my dad praised all of my paychecks. He didn't know what was going on and that I was working crazy hours, and he just thought I was overpaid. Now, most of the customers were very sweet, so we tried our best to be of service, and a lot of them were regulars or people who came in to support Marco or everyone. There was always so much pressure on DJ and me. Also, DJ isn't white, and he would always get these inappropriate comments and jokes, and Marco and Jenny either did nothing or were the offenders themselves. Most of the criticism or Marco's projection went to him, despite him doing exactly what he was supposed to be doing and only occasionally messing up due to extreme stress or time constraint. After a certain point, almost every criticism was race-based in some kind of way. Well, one horrible Saturday, there were 3 times as many reservations as usual, and this is on top of all the bars and buffet being completely open. I clocked in and I found out one of the managers let go DJ the afternoon before, and absolutely nobody knew why, including DJ, and I'm really assuming it was Marco. I already had zero hope for the day, and the only thing fueling me was the customers and my paycheck, of course. Well, in just just the first hour, I passed Marco at least 5 times trying to get things done. There was one time we accidentally made eye contact while I was helping out a waitress, but at some point I went into the freezer in the back to help load some ice cream in, and he happened to walk in there at the same time that I was standing there for like 3 seconds doing nothing according to him, waiting for my coworker to bring in the dolly. He gave me this frustrated look like, get back to work, and he then caught me maybe half an hour later while I was coming into the back of the kitchen near the freezer to mop up some spilled water. The final time he caught me, I was in the freezer again, looking at the inventory to see what fruit we had enough of, because I could only serve what we had enough of in case people requested more, and it was at this point that Marco apparently had had enough. He said to me, the place is insanely busy and you're just in here standing in the freezer for like 4 hours. You need to go home. I gave him this look because I was completely stunned, and he just reiterated that I was done for the night. But you know what? I was not going to argue with Marco. This was not my problem. I just said thanks, I took my apron off, and I headed out. Both the employees' doors were blocked by trash cans, and my partner was standing there with a whole cart of things talking to her cousin. So I went to use the main side door in the front of the restaurant. Jenny saw me and asked where I was going, so I just put a smile on my face and said, oh man, Marco's the best guy ever. He just randomly came up to me and told me to take the night off. Well, when I said this, Jenny's face went from confused to shocked, all the way to livid in the span of like 1 second. She quickly told me, oh, don't go just yet, to which she screamed into the kitchen looking for Marco. Now, I pretended not to hear her over the music and customers, and I just turned around and decided to leave. I then got over 10 phone calls, but I simply let my phone ring. I waited until my partner updated her Facebook status that basically said, oh, we're finally closed, good night, or something like that. And I finally texted Marco back and gave an apology that sucked up in the most condescending way. But I did it in a way that was personal that only he would understand if he were to show it to someone else. Well, I came back the next morning and it was a complete disaster. Marco and Jenny came in looking dead tired because they spent the rest of the night and overtime busting their butt, trying to keep things going. There were actually dishes and trash cans piled up, and both the buffet and kitchen were wrecked because Jenny and her dad didn't want to keep the workers late and pay them overtime. As a result, the restaurant had to close for the summer. They posted all these job opportunities in schools and on Facebook, and eventually opened back up. But I never answered, and DJ didn't accept amends, so it was a whole spiral. Because of me leaving and DJ being fired, they had to close down their ice cream and minimize their buffet, and they now close earlier because they simply can't handle it. There are less customers supporting Marco, and there were even customers saying they aren't coming back until Marco or Jenny leaves. There was a waitress who joined during my time there, and it was her first job ever, and now she is the only previous employee left, and she ended up getting appointed as a manager at some point. I think they had to offer her a lot of money to stay because she bought a new house. Marco is the only other manager now, and Marco is still asking me to come back. And since I deleted my Facebook, I kept that phone number open and prepaid service on my old phone just for the purpose of reading his text messages during my lunch break. Because Marco and Jenny made my life a living nightmare, and honestly, seeing them suffer is kind of satisfying. Dude, imagine working at a place that literally acts like this. This is some high school crap. Not only do you have Marco micromanaging everything you do, but you've also got Jenny, the most useless manager on the planet, screaming and freaking out about all the dumbest things you could possibly think of. And the fact that they fired DJ over nothing. Like, dude, that guy was keeping the place in order. You really just got rid of your best worker. I can't stand managers like this, dude. It's so annoying because they don't do their job and then they rely on people they're underpaying, who they're also just like mistreating the entire time they're working there. Like, seriously, this sucks. I hate jobs like this. So good for you for not going back because that place sounded awful. And the fact that they're still trying to find staff and beg you to come back is the best evidence you need to prove that you absolutely were not the problem, whereas Marco and Jenny 100% were. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My sister is demanding that my husband provide free transportation for all of her wedding guests, ignoring the fact that he runs a transportation business, and he would have to shut things down for free just to make it happen. And when I told her no, that's not going to happen, she said that I'm not being supportive. And at this point, I'm honestly not sure what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my sister is getting married soon. I was at her place helping with some wedding prep when she suddenly says, I want to announce free transportation for all of my wedding guests just to make it look classy. I then was like, okay, that's nice, but how are you going to pull that off? She said to me, well, since your husband owns a transportation business and has a few cars, it'll be easy for him to handle it. So I said to her, okay, he will be here soon to pick me up, and when he comes, you guys can talk and maybe bargain out the price. She then cuts me off and goes, no, I don't want to pay. I mean, I want him to offer it for free to my guests. And when she said that, I just looked at her. She then added on that if I talk to him, he'll accept it because he listens to me. I then asked her, well then why do you want to promise free services to people when you're not the one providing them? She then said to me, oh, I have rich friends I invited for the wedding, and I think you know what that means. I just want to make it look so classic. You can talk to him about it. I then told her straight out, I'm not going to convince my husband to pause his business, offer up his cars, as well as fuel, drivers, and time all for free just so you can look good in front of her rich friends. Well, when I said that, she said I'm not being supportive to her, and at this point, I'm not sure what to do. Oh my gosh, this is some serious entitlement. Imagine being so entitled that you're like, oh yeah, your husband's business? I need him to stop production and miss out on thousands of dollars in any kind of payment just to cater to my wedding. Like seriously, you are not that important. The fact that she wants to be like, oh yeah, you can talk to him, he'll listen to you. And it's like, yeah, of course he's gonna listen to her. That's his wife, dude. He's gonna hear this garbage offer and be like, no, I'm not gonna do that. That's insane. So if I was in your shoes, I would tell her, no, that's not gonna happen, and then leave it at that. Because what she's asking from you is completely insane. Am I the jerk for not helping my coworker with her project after she literally got a promotion after taking credit for my idea? Because right now I'm being called uncooperative, and at this point I'm just so burnt out and so frustrated. Here's what's going on. I'm a 24-year-old female and I work at a marketing agency with this coworker who I will call Rachel for the sake of the story. We started around the same time and we were pretty friendly until last month. We were both working on separate campaigns for different clients. I had this idea for a social media strategy that involved partnering with local businesses. I mentioned it to Rachel during lunch and she seemed interested. Well, 2 weeks later, Rachel presents her idea to our boss and it's literally the exact same strategy I told her about. She got praised for being innovative and got assigned to a bigger client because of it. I confronted her privately and she just said that great minds think alike and that she came up with it independently. I know that's BS because I had already started researching local businesses before I even told her. Now she's working on this huge project with tight deadlines and keeps asking me to help her with research and brainstorming. She says that we're a team and we should help each other out. But I told her I'm too busy with my own work to help. She's been struggling and our boss asked me why I'm not being more collaborative and I just said I have my own deadlines to meet. Well, she's been passive aggressive ever since then and told other people I'm being uncooperative. But why should I help someone who stole my idea? So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because I really just don't know what to do. Oh man, I don't blame you for a second. The second someone steals my idea and tries to pass it off as their own is the second I no longer want anything to do with them. It is so frustrating. And it's always the same type of person. The one that's always a leech for good ideas but never comes up with anything on their own. Which is exactly why they're struggling. Like look at them. They're like, hey, by the way, can you help me out? Let's brainstorm. We're working together. And it's like, why? So you can take credit for that as well? So truly, I don't blame you for a second for shutting her down and saying, no, I'm not going to help you, because if I was in your shoes, I would do the exact same thing. Am I the jerk for pounding on my neighbor's gate until they move their car? Because they literally were ignoring me on purpose just to avoid moving anything around. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm moving into a townhouse, but I have some weeks of overlap with my old rental for a little bit, so I've been between the two places and not at the townhouse all the time. Well, because of this, my neighbor decided this meant that he could park his extra car in my spot. I arrived one night at around 8:30 p.m. to find him parked in my assigned spot. I left a note on the windshield and I parked on the street overnight. By mid-afternoon the next day, the car was still in my spot, so I went and I knocked on his gate. I could see him and his wife inside and the wife was right next to the door, but they just ignored me. I went back 3 times to knock and they just kept ignoring me. I even tried to call the tow truck, but no one would tow from a private lot. The third time, I just pounded on the gate incessantly, and I shouted that I knew they could see me until they answered. But that time I was pretty heated and I said, move your car and don't park in my spot ever again. Well, the guy did move his car, but there was no apology and just a big eye roll. This is the first time that I met them, by the way, and I worry that I came in too hot and I ruined the neighbor relationship. I also wasn't that frustrated until they ignored me while I knocked, but that just completely pissed me off, and I kind of lost my cool. So am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I think I may have gone a little bit overboard. Okay, honestly, these people suck. I would have done the exact same thing, dude. They literally were ignoring you, dude. Like, that is so frustrating. It's one thing to be like, oh yeah, they said some nasty things and they treated me really badly, but for them to ignore you and pretend like you don't even exist when you're blatantly banging on their gate, like, that is so rude. And in my opinion, I think that's way worse. So yeah, these people were giant pieces of crap and you should have not had to deal with that at all. My former tenants burned down my garage in a way that made it completely uninhabitable, forcing me to redo this house from the ground up just to make it habitable. Here's what happened. So I had been renting a home to a family for about 8 years. I rented through an agency, so I tried to be as hands-off as possible, but I still helped out when I could. Any major appliance breakdowns or issues were addressed as quickly as I could. Now, I also would like to believe that what goes around comes around, both the good and bad alike. But these people had some interesting problems though. At one point, the stove broke and would only go on high, which is not a big deal to fix, maybe $80 in parts. But the thing is, they didn't tell me about it. Instead, they decided to leave oil in a pan and walked away to fold laundry. The grease then caught fire and destroyed the microwave and left smoke damage. And yes, I was very pissed off, but things happen, so I just let it slide. About 13 months ago, they sent me a text message saying there was a fire, it's bad. Well, the garage was totally destroyed. The fire investigator said a cigarette likely started the blaze since it was tossed into a pile of trash. But the tenants didn't even know the house was on fire because get this, they removed the batteries from all the smoke detectors because they wouldn't stop beeping. Well, obviously they had to leave since the house was uninhabitable. We didn't straight up evict them, they did it to themselves. My rental agency never did a final walkthrough and never collected their keys. Well, the house has been under restoration ever since. It's been about $90,000 in insurance claims, and now my premium has quadrupled. Now, in an effort to make it presentable again, my family and I have been painting and replacing the needed items. It turns out their teenage son let him into the house at some point and actually kicked in some walls and carved his name into about 20 places in the house. There were many other things, but I'm trying to keep this brief. Now, as for the revenge, this weekend I was in the attic replacing bathroom vents. When I went into the attic, I found 3 boxes stored away. One of them has an NES with a dozen games or so, and the others were labeled memories with their son's name on it. They contained baby blankets, stuffed animals, and other trinkets. Well, I took special joy in placing the boxes out for bulk trash to pick up, and I smiled as I watched them get crushed by the trash truck. Because if you don't care about other people's stuff, then you cannot expect them to care about yours. Wow, I can't believe you allowed them to stay in your house after they literally caught your kitchen on fire. Like, if that's not foreshadowing of what's coming, I don't know what is, because that is crazy, dude. I would have immediately found some reason to get them out of there, because that's not just being stupid, that's like straight up negligence. Like, holy crap, I would lose my mind over that. But I love the way you handle this, and I love the revenge you got back on them, because one day they're gonna realize that's missing and not know what actually happened. An entitled Karen hits my car and drives off. But once I catch up to her, she literally tries to tell me that she didn't hit anything and that she didn't do anything wrong. Things got so bad that I literally had to tell her I was gonna call the cops if she didn't tell the truth. Here's what happened. Okay, to set the stage, I get sideswiped because this lady tried changing into my lane as she scrapes just underneath the gas cap. So I think to myself, whatever, we'll pull over and exchange information and that will be that. But no, she continues to drive. We get to a stoplight and I'm laying on my horn and she turns her entire head away from me with the window rolled up while I'm literally staring directly into her driver's side window. We do this for about 5 minutes until she pulls into a restaurant. I snap a picture of the license plate because she hasn't gotten out yet, and I walk up and I tell her, hey, you hit my car. She then looks flabbergasted. No, I didn't. If I hit something, I would know. I then tell her, I've been following you for 2 miles laying on my horn. If you can't hear me and you can't realize you hit someone on the road, then you shouldn't be driving. She then doubles down, but I just get fed up. I don't yell, but I get very mean until she finally gives me her insurance information after I threaten to call the cops. She then tells me, oh, I've never been in an accident ever. And I say to her, well, there's a first time for everything, and I walk away while she says sorry. So it really makes me wonder, why would you lie and then backtrack and then try to leave, only to then finally give me your insurance information and apologize? We could have handled this like adults if you just owned up to it, but instead you forced me to nearly call the police, all because you couldn't fathom that you actually made a mistake. Okay, honestly, I'm kind of surprised you didn't call the cops anyways and be like, oh yeah, this lady absolutely hit me and she's driving off. Because at that point, it really is a hit and run and she deserves to get in trouble. Like, if anything, this idiot absolutely got off easy, dude, like seriously. But either way, good for you for following her, because that is absolutely something that you need to take care of and not something you should ever let slide. Am I the jerk for refusing to be my friend's maid of honor after she picked someone else first who ended up quitting? Because right now, I just feel like a second option and I honestly just feel very hurt. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. So my friend Jessica and I have been friends since high school. And it's important to note that we always talked about being each other's maid of honor when we got married. Well, she got engaged 6 months ago and she actually asked her college roommate Mia to be her maid of honor instead. Now, I was hurt, but I didn't say anything because it's her choice. And instead, she made me a regular bridesmaid. Well, last week, Jessica calls me crying because Mia moved across the country for a job and can't do all the maid of honor duties. And this is where Jessica asked me if I would take over as the maid of honor. But when the question was posed, I told her no. I explained that she chose Mia over me initially, and I wasn't interested in being her second choice. She said she picked Mia because she's more organized and not because she likes her more. I then said that I understand, but I'm not comfortable stepping into the role now. She then got upset with me and said I'm being petty and ruining her wedding. Her fiance even texted me saying that I'm being immature. Some of our mutual friends think that I should just do it since we were close, but I feel like she made her choice and now has to deal with the consequences. So am I the jerk for not wanting to be the new maid of honor? Because right now I'm honestly not sure what to do. Okay, honestly, I kind of see where you're coming from, but also I guarantee you this is going to change your relationship with Jessica from like the ground up. So honestly, I don't think you're the jerk for turning her down, but I do think you got to be ready for the consequences, which is something that Jessica also has to deal with as well. Jessica could have called you and explained why she's going with Mia, but instead she just kind of picked Mia and said, oh, you could be a bridesmaid instead. When it's like, wait a second, we've been best friends for a long time, and now you're going to turn your back on what we agreed upon? And no, you should not be like held hostage to any kind of crap you say in high school. That's not what I'm saying at all. But if the original poster and their friend Jessica really are as good of friends as they're saying, then this really should have been discussed in detail. Like, I just don't understand why it wasn't. So in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk for turning it down, but like I said earlier, this is absolutely going to change everything in your friendship. And I think regardless of what you do, you kind of have to be ready for some kind of fallout.
A spoiled, rotten kid bullies her mom into buying the most expensive cell phone in the cell phone store, refuses to get a case for it even when everyone is insisting on it, and then ultimately destroys her phone by accident, all within 30 seconds of getting her brand new phone. Cue the freak out. Here's what happened. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk on YouTube and hit the bell to turn on notifications. I was working for a well-known cell phone company in sales and in tech in a rich white neighborhood. A lot of these ladies are mean as fire and their children are just as bad, sometimes worse. This kid was worse. Her mother, even though she had an expensive looking manicure and salon style blonde hair, looked threadbare. The little girl who was about 9 or 10 immediately caused a scene in my store. My other coworker was out to lunch, so I received no backup against the little monster. The little girl said,
I want this one, I want this one,
pointing to the most high-end phone we have that just came on the market the week before. Her mother said,
honey, why don't we start you out with an older model to see how you do with it? You already have an iPod and a tablet.
The little girl, reaching an octave that could possibly shatter glass, screamed,
I want this one!
The mother, sighing and turning to me, said,
can we get the expensive phone on this account?
I go back to grab the device out of inventory. I say, we have gold, silver.
Gold! I want gold!
I start the process of putting the phone onto the account and setting up the device. I say to the mother, after she refused to put insurance on the device for some reason, well, I highly recommend a case. These phones can be easily broken.
No! I want everyone to see it's gold!
Said the little girl. I turn to the mother and tell her we have clear cases.
No!
The mother tried to convince her daughter to no avail to put a case on the phone, but eventually gives up. I finish the sale and the little girl just starts jumping around the store with her new phone. Her mother tiredly says goodbye and they walk out of the store. Right as they get outside, the little girl swings herself in a circle and the phone goes flying out of her hands and straight onto the concrete. Both of them freeze and turn ashen. Then the little girl starts to scream. The mother looks back at me with eyes wide and I just shrug. The phone was completely shattered. The screen still worked, but they had to make a trip to the repair store so the mom could pay another $100-something to have the screen replaced. I'm sure the kid screamed the entire way. Was I the jerk for not continuing to insist that they get a case for this phone? I bet the mother was so tempted to take that phone back in and demand a replacement for it. But the second she starts walking back towards that store, she probably just hears a voice ringing in her head, why don't you get insurance? Why don't you get the case? And she probably just didn't want to deal with that since she just denied all of it. It's weird to see when you have kids that rule their parents, where basically the parents are just the pawns of the kids. They're always afraid of making the kid upset because if the kid gets upset, they're gonna have a bad time. Then you have parents completely on the other side of the spectrum that think you should be grateful for being allowed to breathe in their presence. This parent-kid dynamic seems to be more like the first one. So let me know how your parents would have reacted if you were the kid in this situation. They bought you a brand new top-of-the-line phone and then you smashed it as soon as you walked outside the door. And also, jerk or not a jerk, and why? At a company work retreat, I made a joke about a crude drawing that I saw. I had no idea that it was the owner's daughter who has a disability that drew it. Almost immediately after, I was fired from my job. Here's what happened. This happened on Friday. I've been drowning my sorrows all weekend, dreading the fact that I have to start looking for a new job. Explaining why I got fired from my old job is going to be fun. I'm typing it up to try and organize my thoughts because right now it's all a mess. I had been with the company for 3 months and was still on orientation. My job was in sales and advertising. As the new guy, I was given existing accounts to manage, which consisted of providing customer service and convincing my clients to spend more money on advertising. All of these accounts already had their ad campaigns done, and if they wanted something new, the account was transferred to a senior account manager who would work with our advertising guys to put something together for the customer. Eventually, I hoped to have that job, but I had to pay my dues by proving that I could maintain the existing accounts and convince them to spend more money first. Everything was going great until last week when we were scheduled to have our quarterly retreats. Since we were the main regional office in the area, all of the employees from the satellite locations came to our office for the retreat. The owner of the company rarely visits our office. He's been overseeing the setup of a new satellite office for the last year, according to my coworkers. But he was there for the retreat, as was his disabled daughter, Amy. One of my coworkers told me Amy works at one of the satellite offices and I probably wouldn't have much interaction with her, but I should be nice. That seems like a no-brainer. I'm nice to everyone regardless. I won't claim to be an expert on Amy's disability, but it seemed like she had childlike mannerisms and struggled with expressing herself. She also had some problems with motor skills. I'll describe the only interaction I had with her prior to the incident. I went to refill my coffee and Amy was right in front of me getting her coffee. I watched her struggle with getting condiments added and putting the lid on, so I politely asked if she needed any help. She thanked me and said she did, and she let me finish making it. While I was making it, she said that she hated coffee, but her dad made her drink it because she had to be always alert. She said that in a loud voice. I smiled, said that was definitely important, and handed her the cup. She thanked me again and went back to the office her dad was using, where she had been most of the day. I felt like I had been a good Samaritan and went on my way. Most of the retreat is team building exercises, and prior to the incident, Amy only participated in the puzzle race, where groups put puzzles together without the box art to see which team can finish faster. Amy wasn't in my group, so I didn't have any interaction with her there. Neither of our teams won. The big event and the one that everyone seemed the most excited for was the last activity of the day. Our boss gave us a list of potential clients. We were supposed to select 3 as a group and put together something to attract the customer. We were told we would be judged on our creativity. My group explained that we could do pictures, slogans, jingles, whatever we wanted. Each person expected to work on one individually, then work with their group to polish it up before it was presented to everyone. It was kind of a big deal because at previous retreats, there would be clients on the list the owner was already close to bringing on board, and if you impress the owner, you just might land that account. I went with the jingle, rhymed a few words, and recorded it. It was silly, but fit the brand. My group gave me some pointers, we made some improvements, and I recorded the final product for submission. I helped my team with their projects until it was time to turn everything in. After everything was turned in, we gathered in the big conference room to critique each other. The owner went through them one by one. If it was a picture or a storyboard, he'd put it up, read it, and we'd make comments, good or bad. There were some that were great, which drew a lot of compliments, and some that were really bad, which we laughed about as a group. You could tell the senior account managers didn't care much about the exercise or put much effort into their pitches. Nobody seemed to get upset or offended, regardless of the feedback. When my jingle was played, it got a lot of comments, not all of them good, and I took the feedback with a smile. After getting my feedback, I felt a little more comfortable about sharing my thoughts on other presentations. I gave what I thought was valuable feedback to a few products, laughed at a couple others, and then a rather crude drawing was put up for the exact same company I had chosen. I immediately joked that, well, at least my jingle was better than that. Did a 3-year-old draw it? And laughed. To absolute silence. I was really confused because plenty of other people had made jokes and everyone laughed. Instead, a few people looked at me like I was disgusting, and the owner said, "Yes, well, if you don't have anything nice to say, keep it to yourself, maybe." Then my boss scooted down to where I was sitting and told me I needed to go to my desk. Now, I noticed as I was gathering my things that the owner's daughter was red-faced and starting to tear up. The team building exercise was over for me. I went back to my desk and it began to sink in that the drawing must have been drawn by the owner's daughter. There was no warning or anything. The owner didn't reveal who put together what we were looking at until after a few critiques. Maybe I should have known? Everyone was joking and having fun up to that point. Someone else had a pretty bad drawing they got laughed at. Either way, I felt felt awful. As soon as the event was over, I approached my boss to apologize. He told me to wait for him in his office. Long story short, I was fired. My boss said since I was still on orientation, he had decided I wasn't a good fit for the company, so it was better to let me go now. He didn't outright say that I was being fired for making fun of her drawing, but that's literally the only thing that I've ever gotten in trouble for. My work up until that point had been praised. I didn't get much time to process it because my boss had already called security, who showed up fairly quickly and escorted me to my desk to gather my things before escorting me out of the building. An hour later, I got a call from one of my former teammates who asked if I wanted to join the team for a drink one last time. They needed it after the retreat and felt bad that they didn't warn me. I wasn't feeling up for it, but I wanted to try and make sense of the whole situation, so I went to the bar. In the back of my mind, I was thinking, since I'm about to start looking for a new job, a few references from coworkers wouldn't be bad, since I definitely won't be getting one from my boss or the owner of the company after everything that happened. The team explained that Amy comes to all of these retreats and that she always does some crude drawing like that. Everyone just sort of knows to say nice things about it and move on. One of my teammates said that once you've seen one of her drawings, you know what to look for. Well, I didn't, and nobody warned me. I started to get pretty upset that this was a known thing and everyone knew but me. But what could I do? I had already screwed up and it cost me my job. The team also shared more about Amy. Apparently, she works at one of the satellite offices but doesn't really do anything. The people in charge of the office try to come up with stuff for her to do because she gets upset when she's bored. The team said the way people who work there described it, they were basically her babysitter, so she wouldn't bother her dad all day when he spent most of his time there. And after he moved on to establish the new satellite office, he didn't take Amy with him because she liked all the friends that she had at that office. They also said that her dad harassed a few single guys at the office to take her on dates, which seemed pretty HR inappropriate, but he does own the company. My team said Amy desperately wants a boyfriend and wants to get married, which she talks about all the time. The consensus seemed to be that there's no way that she actually understands how relationships or marriage works, and her dad probably put this idea in her head to begin with. One of my teammates did joke that it wasn't a bad deal because whoever married her would inherit the company since she is the old man's only kid. I wasn't really in the mood for jokes at that point after losing my job over a joke, so I told them I needed to go. The only good thing is my former team members did say they would gladly give me a reference if I needed it since they felt so bad about not telling me the Amy situation to begin with. Oh, and the cherry on top, Amy sent me a Facebook friend request over the weekend. I haven't accepted it. I already upset her and it cost me my job. Part of me wants to accept it, apologize, and block her, but I'm not sure I'm ready for that either. I'm going to take a few days to get myself together and then get my resume out there. I've decided that I am going to accept the friend request. I plan to open with an apology. If she replies, great. If she doesn't, then at least I will have a clear conscience knowing that I did the right thing. Jumping into the future, here's the update. First of all, thank you to everyone who made me laugh. The first time someone joked about me accepting the friend request, marrying Amy, and taking my revenge by inheriting the company made me uncomfortable. But by the third time I saw it mentioned, I couldn't help but laugh. A lot of you gave me good advice. I appreciate those who talked about the legal action and what options I had. Unfortunately, I was still on orientation with my company, which is like a probationary period. During that time, they can let me go for any reason. They could fire me for wearing the wrong colored socks if they wanted. I had to sign an agreement to get employed which stated that I understood this. There's literally nothing I can do legally. At the end of the day, I decided to have some drinks with a good friend, talk things out, and see what he would do. Dave's been my best friend since we were in elementary school. We've probably spent more time together than some actual brothers. Dave was firmly on the side of accept a friend request, apologize, and clear your conscience, man. I'm getting us another round of shots. He knows me better than anyone, and he knows that the guilt would eat me alive. I posted it here because it bothered me. I decided to take his advice and everyone here who pushed me for that as well. So that's what I did. I accepted the friend request. I immediately messaged Amy. I said I shouldn't have made that joke about anyone's work. It was unprofessional and I was sorry. It took her a while to respond, but when she finally did, she thanked me for my apology. But she sent me the request because she wanted to apologize since I lost my job over it. I said she didn't owe me an apology, and there was another long pause before she asked if she could copy paste something to me. I wasn't sure what it was, but I said she could. She pasted a generic message, but one she had clearly spent some time on. I don't want to type it word for word, but I'll paraphrase. Hi, my name is Amy. Please forgive me if I'm slow to respond to you. I suffered a brain injury when I was a little girl, and it takes me a while to type things out. There was more to it, but that's the basic stuff. I responded saying it was was not a problem, and she could take all the time she needed. Amy and I ended up messaging back and forth until almost 3 a.m. No, we didn't fall in love. We aren't going on a date. I'm not going to marry her for revenge so I can take her dad's company. However, I do think I would like to be friends with her. Not because I feel bad for her, but because she's genuinely a nice person, and honestly, everyone could use a few friends like that. We spent a lot of time talking about her. That's just the direction it went, so I asked questions and she seemed comfortable talking about it. Amy was in a car accident when she was a kid. She was in the car with her mom and they were hit by a drunk driver coming back from a birthday party from one of her classmates. Her mom didn't make it and Amy suffered a brain injury that impacts her motor skills. Because it makes it difficult for her to speak and to do simple things like getting dressed, making coffee, etc., people assume that she's mentally challenged. She was put in special ed because of it, but worked really hard and graduated from high school. She even wanted to go to college, but her dad didn't think it was a good idea. Her life has been difficult because it's hard for her to communicate with people. By the time she can get a fully formed sentence out, the conversation is over. She can type slowly, but most people don't want to type when they're face to face. She even admitted that when she's not at work, she will sometimes carry a tablet and pretend that she's mute because that's just easier. We eventually circled back to the drawing and my terrible response to it. She wasn't that offended by my response because she assumed that I didn't know. She got upset primarily because she knew all hell was about to break loose and she had no way to communicate with anyone. She was so upset when she found out that I got fired and tried to talk to her dad, but he wouldn't listen to her. She's fully aware that a lot of people at the company just pretend to be nice to her because she's the owner's daughter, but she does have a few friends at the satellite office where she works who better understand her disability. She gets frustrated because she truly can't contribute anything, but is happy when they are able to find busy work for her to do. It might take her all day to do something another person could do in a couple of hours, but it's better than sitting around bored all day. She knows that she's a burden and bother to her dad when he's around, but he's her dad and she loves him. She wishes every single day that she was a daughter he could be proud of rather than a burden. She tries talking to him via emails and text messages, but he usually doesn't respond. If they're in the same location, he'll just walk over and respond verbally, which is frustrating because it becomes a one-sided conversation with her unable to do anything but give simple one-word answers like yes or no. She also thanked me again for helping with her coffee. She said that when she was younger, she tried to do everything by herself and would get mad when people helped her, but now she's learned to appreciate the few who do. Most just stand there and look away, pretending to patiently wait for her to do it on her own. It was getting late for both of us at that point, really late. It takes her a long time to respond to messages, there's misspellings. I get why some would assume that she's mentally challenged. I myself referred to her in my first post as having childlike mannerisms, which was a misunderstanding on my part. When she tries to force words quickly or emphasize something, she gets really loud, which makes her sound like an excited toddler rather than an adult trying to have a conversation. We ended our talk last night agreeing to talk again sometime. She asked if I had watched the first episode of House of the Dragon yet, which I have, and she asked if I'd like to talk about it after she watches it. I told her I'd love to. So that's it. That's the update. Sorry to everyone who expected me to steal her dad's company. I'm definitely not going to do that. Talking to Amy did make me feel a lot better though. I don't know how I'm going to handle the whole firing thing in my next interview, but a few of you suggested I just leave a gap on my resume, and I may just do that. So ultimately, was I the jerk for making a joke about Amy's drawing? Honestly, it seems like the OP is a pretty good guy. He didn't try and make the situation worse. He didn't try to go after Amy to try and get revenge on the dad through Amy like a lot of people thought that he was going to do. He didn't try to take down the company even though he was frustrated. He just had a conversation with Amy and got to know her. He says that even the joke about marrying Amy to steal the company through inheritance made him uncomfortable, let alone actually going in that direction for any reason. I really didn't expect the story to go in the direction of learning all about Amy and her backstory and him really building a connection with her, and it was pretty interesting to see his perspective on everything. For some reason, the whole moment when it actually happened, when he made the joke about the drawing, it was almost like a sitcom or something, like it was a scene from The Office. But nobody gave him a heads up on this. Nobody explained that Amy always has a drawing and what to look out for. He just went in there totally blind, thinking that it was fair game to make fun of this, like they were making fun of everything else in that presentation. It's a little surprising that the dad, the owner here, doesn't see it as it happened logically. The OP didn't have all the information. But then again, it's probably hard to detach the emotional side since it's his daughter that was the subject of the joke here. It sounds like the OP and Amy are actually going to become friends, despite this whole situation, which is great to see because that's an unexpectedly wholesome ending to this whole thing. So let me know what you would do if you were in this situation and you lost your job, and jerk or not a jerk, and why. Am I the jerk for having my kids wear tie-dye when they're with their dad? I'm a 30-year-old female. My ex-husband is 31. We got divorced 5 years ago, and during our divorce, we owned a single-wide mobile home built in 1973 on a large piece of land that is zoned for a trailer park. He wanted the new truck and our savings. I wanted the old trailer and the land. My ex and I have 2 girls, 8 and 7. 27. And since my divorce, I slowly started buying old single wides and restoring them, turning it into a business. I love it. My girls go to their dad's and his affair partner's apartment every other weekend. I started noticing their clothes, electronics, and toys were not coming home. At first, I thought their dad was just keeping a few outfits for them there. However, my 8-year-old got upset when she was packing. I asked her what was wrong. She told me her dad takes her clothes and sells them online, that she doesn't want to take her favorite shirt over there. I immediately called my ex. I asked him to return our daughter's clothes, not wanting to throw my daughter under the bus. I blamed it on them not having enough for school. He played dumb. He said he got rid of the clothes that were too small. I pointed out that the jeans our 7-year-old had were brand new. He then said that it was only fair that he got some cash because he owned the trailer and the land. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be doing this good. I was pissed. I took my daughters down to the dollar store and bought some cheap shirts, to a thrift store and bought some cheap shorts. We had a girls' tie-dye night, hot pink, everything. Each of them made 5 shirts and 5 bottoms. I let our girls design and decorate them. My girls loved it. The following week, my ex sends the girls home. I could tell he's mad, but he didn't say anything. The clothes were not returned. No fear, I knew this would be an issue. We made extras. When the girls went back, they were wearing tie-dye. They were there with their dad for an hour before he called and demanded different clothes. I kindly told him that our daughters love those clothes. They actually really love tie-dye. My ex got even angrier and said that his parents have a major family party and the girls can't wear pink tie-dye. I told him he should go buy other clothes if he didn't want them to wear it. He called me a jerk for being so petty. Am I the jerk? Stories like this sometimes enrage people, but these type of stories just kind of feel sad to me sometimes because obviously he needs the money. He's not able to get it or unwilling to get it in other ways, so he decides to rip off the mother of his children. Yeah, they're not together, but still you're cannibalizing your own family unit even if you are divorced. You're basically eating at the shared resources that the two of you guys have to raise these kids together apart. It's just very short-sighted and it seems like it's fueled by a whole tit-for-tat type approach because he's saying that he owns the land and it's only because of him that she's in a good position, when from the sounds of it, that's probably not true. But let's just assume that it was. Why would that make it okay to steal from the pocket of your children's mother? I don't think it is. But let me know how you see this down below, and jerk or not a jerk, and why. A Karen actually called the police because her son died in a video game. The guy that was shooting in the video game is who she called the police on. We're talking pixels on a screen. Here's what happened. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk on YouTube and hit the bell to turn on notifications. I am Swedish, so sorry for my bad English. So I was playing some Rainbow Six Siege solo queue and I met this 12 to 14-year-old kid. After the game, he invites me to a 1v1 on house. I agreed and the game was on. Now, I'm okay at Siege around Platinum 3 and he was maybe Silver or something, so it was an easy game for me. And this kid was trash talking the whole time. Like,
Yeah, bro, you suck. Oh, come on, man.
and
Oh, you really gonna play that?
insert different operator here,
He sucks.
and so on and so on. So the real story begins when he starts using swear words.
Frick you, man.
I respond with silence, and that's when the mom gets on the voice call and says,
Oh, why are you swearing at my son?
"What? I haven't been swearing at your son."
Well, I just heard you say frick you to my son.
No, I did not.
And why are you killing my son all the time?
Well, it's kind of the point of the game to kill the opponent.
Well, why is he not killing you then?
Well, that may be because I happen to be better at this game than he is.
I want you to stop killing my son.
Yeah, no, not gonna happen, lady.
Do you want me to call the police for assault?
Good luck, ma'am.
Where do you live?
I live in Sweden.
Do not lie to me, you jerk!
Ma'am, why would I lie to you?
Why would you not lie to me to get out of the police coming to your house?
Touché, men jag ljuger faktiskt inte för dig just nu, is what I said, which means, but I'm not lying to you.
What is your address?
I said Riksgatan 112 Stockholm. This is the address of the Swedish parliament. There's silence for a while, and then I hear,
So now I've called the police and they are on their way.
"Sweet, I'll be here waiting for them."
Good, I hope you will enjoy jail.
Yeah, I'm sure I will. Well, goodbye. I better get dressed for when the police show up. Bye. Hey though. I left the game and went to sleep. For what I know, the police have not showed up yet, so was I the jerk for upsetting this hysterical mother to the point point that she called the police on me over her kid dying in a video game. It's pretty funny that he gave the address of the Swedish parliament, but how would you even call the police on somebody who presumably is in a totally different country than you are? I don't know how Rainbow Six Siege sets up their games, but I'm assuming there's an EU server, a North America server, and so on. So this person that's calling is probably calling from the EU somewhere else. And I'm guessing she and her son are not in Sweden because she assumes that he's lying about where he's from. The question I have is, has the mom never seen her son ever play video games before? Is this the very first time she's ever seen him do one-on-ones with somebody and have this type of interaction? Because why else would she freak out this bad? I guess maybe because someone was able to get her son to say the word frick, and maybe that's what set her off, because she heard her son say it even though the OP didn't say it himself. She probably assumed there's no way my son would ever say this unless someone said it to him, which clearly is not true. When stuff like this happens, it's so absurd that it's hard to even know how to respond to this if you're in that situation. I mean, if you're playing on your Xbox or whatever and you heard somebody say this, the mom gets on the voice chat and starts saying that she's gonna call the police on you. What do you even do? How do you even react to that? Let me know down below, and jerk or not a jerk, and why. I'm a woman who is engaged to a guy named Jack. At our engagement party, my old guy friend Matt told Jack that I have always had a crush on Matt. Now my fiance wants to leave me because he doesn't want to be a second choice. I have never had a crush on Matt. It just simply isn't true, but I don't know what to do now. Here's what happened. My best friend Sarah, who's 26, and her husband Matt, who's 28, have put me in a very difficult position with my fiance Jack, who's 30. I knew Matt since my childhood. He was my neighbor and we were friendly. Sarah and I were roommates in college and became close friends. When I introduced Sarah and Matt, they hit it off and started dating each other. I was happy to see two of my friends get together, but also annoyed that I became the third wheel and was often ignored or set aside because they were so into each other. By the time I graduated, Matt had completely dropped me as a friend. That saddened me, but I was still good friends with Sarah, so it was what it was. Sarah and I would frequently hang out, but I never talked with Matt other than the occasional polite hellos. Sarah would sometimes try to do couples dates with her and Matt and me and my dates. I found that Matt had developed an unpleasant personality and would frequently be rude and condescending towards me. However, he's a very devoted and loving husband to Sarah, so for her sake, I ignored him. When my fiance and I got engaged, we had no plans to do a party. Sarah was disappointed that we didn't throw an engagement party, so she organized a small get-together at her home to celebrate us. The party was nice, and as things were winding down, my fiance and I went to thank Sarah and Matt for their sweet gesture before we took our leave. Matt was pretty sloshed by then, and out of nowhere, he suddenly hugged me and in front of my fiance said that he was so glad I was finally settling down and he is relieved now that I'll be over the crush that I had on him. I was shocked and told him that wasn't true. He just laughed and told Jack that I was always chasing him and he had to work to keep me away. I dragged Sarah in and asked her to please fix this mess, and she was like, "Oh, he's sloshed, ignore him," and says, "You know, I always trust you. I know you wouldn't act on your crush." Jack was pretty pissed by this point and he walked out. I ran after him and tried explaining that this isn't true, but he told me he doesn't want to be anyone's second choice or their backup plan. Since that night, he isn't talking to me or returning my calls. I have talked to Sarah multiple times to clear things with Jack, but she's brushing me off. I don't understand why they believe this or why she'd stay friends with me if she thought that I was into her husband. I was in her wedding party and did all the work because her sister, who was the maid of honor, was too busy. I have helped her through pregnancy and have babysit her kids so many times. She never gave me any indication she thought this, and why would she want me close to her family if she believed this? I feel humiliated that these people think I was pining away for a jerk like Matt. I need help in convincing Jack that this isn't true. I'm also mad at him for throwing away our relationship over what some sloshed idiot said. I don't know what I'm going to do about my friendship with Sarah. Jumping into the future, there is an update. I talked to Sarah again and asked her, first of all, why she'd think I had a crush on Matt. She said that when I first introduced them, I had talked Matt up and gushed about him, and she took that as me being into him. I said I was fond of him since I've known him for a long time, but that doesn't mean I want to be with him. She said when they started dating, I was often upset about it. I said I wasn't upset about their dating. I was upset that she'd make plans with me and then leave me to be with him when we were all together. I didn't enjoy being the third wheel while they ignored me. That had nothing to do with wanting him, and more not to liking being left out by my best friend. I asked her why she hadn't said anything before, and she She explained that she could manage the situation. She had asked Matt to stop talking to me completely, and she engineered situations so there was little chance of us socializing together. I explained that I never had a crush on Matt, and I asked her now, can you please talk to Jack and tell him? She said she didn't want to lie. This frustrated me immensely. She could ignore this imaginary crush for years and manipulate me, but won't talk to my fiance to help my relationship? I told her I was done being her friend. Thinking back, I was always doing stuff for her, and she used me, but did little for me. Jumping into the future, there is a final update. I wrote a long letter to Jack explaining the entire history of my relationship with Sarah and Matt with recent screen caps. I asserted as best I could that I never had pined after any guy and I loved him, and he was my only choice. After days of silence, Jack agreed to talk to me. We met and he said that he sees two ways of interpreting the situation. One, Matt and Sarah are right and he doesn't want to be my second choice. Or two, they are malicious people who are messing with me, and that shows very poor judgment on my part. That I'd have a best friend like this and he doesn't want that quality in a life partner. Either possibility leads to the same conclusion, that he wants to call off the engagement. He reminded me that I had represented Sarah as one of the most important people in my life. I jump up and help her all the time. I had once canceled plans with him to take care of her kid when the baby was sick. It had irked him, but he had seen it as me being nice and caring. But now he's seeing all of that in a different light. I cried and begged him not to end our engagement, but he wanted a break for a while. I thought over what he said for a few days and came to realize he was right. I was a clingy friend and a doormat. I never even saw how one-sided my friendship with Sarah was. I was a doormat with Jack too. I didn't want to get married or have kids this early, but agreed to his timelines. I gave up an exciting job opportunity with more money because he didn't want me traveling for work. I love him, but I need to fix myself and be stronger. I gave back his ring and ended things. I returned all the gifts he gave too. He was offended by that, but I didn't feel good about keeping the very expensive things he had given me. He makes a lot more than me and was very generous with what he gave me, but I can't keep that now. Sarah was quiet for a while, but then started calling me. I ignored a lot of her calls, but this morning I answered her call and told her about the breakup. I was looking for sympathy from my old friend. She was more interested in knowing if I was going to watch her kid while she and Matt went on an overnight trip. She got pretty angry when I said no. I have her blocked now. I have lost my fiance, my best friend, and my relationship with my nephew, whom I adored, all in one go. But still, I am thankful for the comments that show this wasn't something I could fix and help me rip off the band-aid and walk away from this mess. Is there any way I could have done this differently? What should I have done? This is a tough situation, and from the sounds of it, Matt and Sarah have probably been taking advantage of the OP for a long time. And maybe the OP this entire time has been recontextualizing all of this in order to make it feel like she wasn't being taken advantage of. But it just got to the point where it's so blatantly obvious that they don't care about her at all. They just want her to watch the baby and play this token role in their lives, all while condescendingly explaining their perspectives in a way that gives them an ego boost. I'm sure Matt probably thinks he's really cool that the OP is so into him and he has to explain to his wife, oh yeah babe, she's always been into me, she's super into me. And they've latched onto that perspective to the point that they're not even willing to hear her out. Sarah says she won't talk to Jack because she doesn't want to lie. So in other words, she doesn't believe the OP. She thinks the OP is lying despite putting everything on the table and explaining it all. It's interesting that the OP came to the conclusion that ultimately Jack is right. It's only one of those two explanations. And that is what pushed her further down the path of reflecting on her friendship with Sarah and Matt. Ultimately, she learned the important lesson that these people are not your friends. Sarah and Matt don't see you as friends in the same way that you have seen them as friends for all these years. And as painful as it might be, ending the friendship with both of them is the most healthy way to deal with this mess. There's not a win-win outcome in this situation. If your best friend for your whole life did this to you, let me know how you would respond down below, and jerk or not a jerk, and why. Am I the jerk for telling my daughter she cannot marry a racist? Some background. My wife and I have lived in a somewhat larger city where my daughter was born. My wife got a job opportunity in one of her employer's field offices and it was too good to pass up. We moved to the boonies when my daughter daughter, Amy, was a preteen, and we've been here ever since. The people are nice, but we were quickly labeled as city folk, so we never really integrated very well. Amy came back the summer between freshman and sophomore year. She got a summer job, which is where she met her fiance, Dan. We have had Dan over to the house countless times, and he's polite, respectful, and seems to truly love my daughter. He's a local, and his family have been locals for generations. We rarely met up with his parents, but they also seemed nice when we did. They dated long distance all through her college years. This past summer, they got engaged. His parents decided to throw an engagement last weekend at their house. We have never been there before, and I was excited to see the home where he grew up and meet his extended family. The party was fine. We did our best to fit in, but like I mentioned, we're from the city and they poked fun a little bit. His dad gave a speech, and while it wasn't overtly racist, he mentioned how he was happy his son found a nice white girl and looking forward to white grandbabies. As the night progressed, they started to share a bit of family history so that we would know the proud lineage our family would now be a part of. Without going into too much detail, they are descendants from members of a hate group. We decided to be polite and not say anything, but we didn't stay much longer. I let this stew for a few days until Amy returned home. She tells me that she was not aware of his family history, but it doesn't change her mind. I don't want her marrying into this family, and I told her so. She says Dan doesn't wholly believe what his parents do, but I'm not convinced. You can't be raised to believe you are of a superior race and not have it become internalized to some degree. She assures me that they have a lifetime for her to point out all the ways his parents are wrong, but I'm worried that if they never leave his hometown, there will be too much pushback from his family. I told her I'm going to be firm on this, that I don't want her marrying into that family. She called me a jerk and has been ignoring me ever since. I feel horrible, but this isn't what I had hoped for. So, is she right? But before you decide, there was an update. A lot has happened in the past few weeks, so I thought I would share. Not long after I posted, Amy came to me to apologize. I was surprised because based on the responses I was getting, I was preparing to apologize to her. She said she lashed out because she was trying to reconcile her relationship as she knew it with the new information about who he was. I asked her if she really had no idea, and she said that looking back, there were warning signs, but nothing that would lead her to believe that he was overtly racist. I guess being long distance and liking him so much allowed her to remain mostly ignorant. She wanted to know what she should do. I told her that I was going to talk to Dan and try and get a beat on the person who he is, apart from his parents. She seemed to think that that was a good idea. A lot of people said that I was being unfair labeling him a racist before, but now that we have spoken, I can tell you for certain that he is racist. A lot of you were trying to figure out what Amy meant by him not being wholly racist, and I think I can answer that now. He told me that he doesn't harbor hatred for anyone, but he believes the white race will go extinct eventually, and he is proud of who he is and of his race, and he doesn't want that to happen. Which I guess also explains his father's comment about white grandbabies. I told him that his heritage is nothing to be proud of, and that his beliefs will have no place in our family or in my household. He said that Amy seemed to understand him, and that I might not have a choice of whether or not his beliefs will be a part of my family. I said that he was right. If Amy wants to move forward with the wedding, then there is nothing I can do to stop her. He sneered and told me that he supposed we had nothing more to discuss then, and that was the end of it. I told Amy what he discussed with me, and she decided to call it off. She broke up with him, and he has not taken too kindly to it. He has been to the house a lot, so we decided to get her an apartment back in the city. Her work is going to start phasing back into the office anyway, so the timing works out. His parents called us and came to speak with us a few times. At first, they were just trying to figure out what was going on, but it quickly turned into them berating us. I got some flack for not standing up to them initially, so this time I made sure they knew where I stood. So, am I the jerk for telling my daughter she cannot marry a racist? Before the update, I probably would have also said it's unfair to just lump him in with his family. Just because his family believes one thing doesn't mean that he believes one thing. Plenty of people grow up in households where they do not share the same worldview as their parents or other family members in general. But from the way she tells it in the update, she's pretty certain that he does share some of those worldviews. And specifically, one part that's kind of odd is that he almost seemed like he was overly confident that his fiancée, the OP's daughter, would stick with him regardless of his or his family's beliefs. Just the fact that he sneered at the end of the conversation and said that they have nothing else to discuss paints that picture. But let me know how you guys interpret the situation. Do you think he actually actually is racist? And do you think it's right for the mom to say the daughter can't marry him, even though she's saying that she's not saying that, but she's also saying that? Let me know what you think. Jerk or not a jerk, and why? Am I the jerk for not taking down a video that was a gift from my best man? I have a sister that's 6 years older than me. My parents for years cancel on me at the last minute because of my sister. I have a basketball game. Oops, sorry, sister doesn't feel like going out. I am graduating. Oops, sorry, sister had a bad day at work. They have missed both major and smaller events in my life because of her meltdowns. I met the love of my life. We decided to tie the knot. From the beginning, I told my parents how I am worried my sister will ruin another special moment in my life. My mom told me over and over again that it would not happen. The day of my wedding, I received a voicemail from my mom saying they couldn't come because my sister's dog was sick and she was upset. I was hurt. My best man, however, is a jokester. He took my phone, then went to my fiance and asked if he could post a video of our wedding as a gift on social media. She loved his idea. I had no idea about it until I came home. Our honeymoon was at a lakeside cabin, no cell service out there. The post caption said, "My best friend. He is an amazing person even if his parents never showed up for him." The video was still pictures of us next to her parents, me on the dance floor cutting cake, where you would normally see both parents in a wedding picture. The sound behind the video is my mom's voicemail explaining how they couldn't come because my sister's dog was sick. I came home a week later to hundreds of messages, family members from both sides insisting that I take it down. I was told my sister hasn't stopped crying. My mom is refusing to leave the house. I may be the jerk here. I didn't take it down when I got my messages. I didn't call my family back right away. I waited until my vacation time was over at work and enjoyed my time with my wife in our new home before I contacted anyone. My dad told me to take down the video. It was, quote, just a bad night for them, that they will make it up to me and my wife for not coming. My reply was, exactly how do you plan to make up my wedding? It's a once in a lifetime thing. You chose to ignore my feelings on the whole matter. Then he just repeated, he will make it up to me. I told him I would take down the video only when he made up missing my wedding. Flustered, we both hung up the phone before we said things we shouldn't have. So am I the jerk here? I could have just taken down the video, but I didn't. This is a pretty hilarious and creative way to go about this. The fact that the best man in the situation just made a collage basically of all the best moments from the wedding and put the sound as the voicemail, that's genius. And even though it's really funny and it is proving a point here, I'm guessing if he doesn't take it down, he's probably going to permanently sever some sort of relationship with his family. Maybe not to the point where they'll never talk to him again, but they're not going to be happy with him. But also at a certain point, you have to ask yourself, how long am I going to be disrespected until you do something about it or resist it? And he's obviously hurt by his parents not going to his wedding. So even though this wasn't meant to be a vindictive revenge attempt trying to get back at the parents, it kind of did get back at the parents without him even having to do anything. His friend set up the whole thing and he wasn't even aware of it. It's hard to weigh the pros and the cons in a situation like this because you have to stand up for yourself, but you also want to keep your family around. It just depends on how the family is and how they will react to this in the long term. Every family is different. So if this was your family, how would you handle it? Let me know down below, and jerk or not a jerk, and why. My aunt screwed over my grandma for years. I put my nose in her business. My parents got wise on the fraud and eventually reported her to the IRS. The IRS bankrupted her, and now her and her husband are destitute and too old to work. This happened about 5 years ago. My grandma was getting old, late 80s, early 90s. She had one wish, to not die in a senior home. Easily done, as my grandpa had sold some assets way back when, then invested the money and let it ride for 30 years. He never touched it and collected a pension. Way back when my grandpa died, about 10 years before this, my grandma appointed my dad, this terrible aunt, and my uncle as the trustees of the trust. Basically the trusted advisors for her and her care for the foreseeable future. All was well in the beginning. Then my dad, Willie, moved further away and he couldn't take care of the day-to-day upkeep as the trustee and to see that my grandma was okay. My aunt, Rebecca, told her that she and my uncle, Fred, who lived in Arizona, would take over and all would be fine. It was fine for a while. My dad went back to visit a few times and noticed my grandma didn't always have overnight care, or that her mail wasn't picked up and the driveway wasn't plowed. She also lost her cable TV and newspaper subscription. My dad figured it was just lapsed, so he had the services put back on. My dad also noticed that my grandma was eating moldy food at times because her truck was sold and she had no transportation. She drove up until she was 90 years old. She basically just chilled at the house and did crossword puzzles. The craziest part of this is that my aunt only lived 2 miles away from my grandma, but but my grandma told my dad she saw my Aunt Rebecca once a week on Saturday for about an hour. As with the elderly in age, my grandma passed away. She did get her wish and was able to die in her own home. Upon her death, things started to get real interesting. Once the probate lawyer got her children, my dad, aunt, uncle, and other estranged Aunt Becky, around the table, some shady business started to come out. My Aunt Rebecca asked that everyone just forego any audit or paperwork and they just sell the house for around $400,000 and divide up the remaining bank account balance of roughly $400,000. So just signing on the line, each sibling was able to get a check for $200,000. Not too bad of an inheritance. My dad thought that this was somewhat a little rushed. He said that at the time he wanted to wait because my grandma's house was easily in the $600,000 range based on size and location. My aunt exploded in his face, cursing at him and calling him all kinds of names because he was unwilling to sign the assets then and there. She basically wanted a quick close while everyone looked the other way. My dad ended up leaving the room after the screaming and the deal wasn't signed that day. It took nearly 6 months before another appointment and they were all back at the table. The thing is though, when you are a trustee and the person dies, the funds and access to financial accounts are all under heavy scrutiny until all beneficiaries are made aware and sign the final papers. At the next meeting, my dad went in there with no intention to sign the deal. He got his brother, my Uncle Fred, to agree that they audit the entire accounts going back 5 years. When they ended up demanding this again at the meeting with the lawyer, my aunt ended up arguing that a forensic audit would cost $5,000. And it's a waste. Like, what difference does it make? 2 beneficiaries requested it, so it was what was going to happen. The audit report showed up 3 months later. Here's where it gets good. My dad began looking over the audit reports and saw that it was full of holes. Excessive monthly food costs for a 90-year-old lady. Payments made for car services for a car my grandma no longer had. Many different things in there that just didn't add up. My dad asked me to give the audit a second look, so I spent Saturday night going over it, and here is some crazy stuff I found and alerted my dad about. Number 1, Costco monthly food costs of $1,100 to $2,000 for the last 4 years. Number 2, telephone bills for 6 cell phones. My grandma has a home phone only. Number 3, gasoline for a truck my grandma didn't have for 4 years, easily $400 a month. Number 4, house repairs paid to my aunt's husband, who owned a construction business. Some of the house repairs were about $16,000 for a new roof, new garage doors, home security system, which she didn't have, etc. All inflated prices. Number 5, my grandma paid for my aunt to go to Europe twice on vacation. Number 6, my grandma was paying my estranged Aunt Becky a stipend of $2,000 a month for the last 5 years, as well as her deadbeat son for $2,500. Every month they were paid. Number 7, all grandkids were to be paid a lump sum of $10,000 upon their 30th birthday, as that is when the $50 check from grandma stopped for all grandkids. Guess who was paid out? Her kids and my estranged aunt's kids, but not me or my siblings. My grandma gave loans to my Aunt Rebecca for her husband's construction business in return for equity in the company, which amounted to nothing. These loans totaled to about $200,000 over 3 years, right around when the housing bust happened. And lastly, number 9, they also sold her assets like jewelry and whatnot for cash because some big ticket items simply vanished from her house. Armed with all of this, the next probate meeting was interesting. In the time between my grandpa's death and the 3rd probate meeting, my aunt's construction business filed for bankruptcy, so that $200,000 in equity grandma had simply vanished. The probate lawyer was also somewhat concerned and makes it obvious that this was fraud and a breach of fiduciary duty, where my aunt could actually get real prison time. After this, the negotiations were much more favorable. My aunt got nothing, literally zero. My other aunt only received $25,000 after all stipend payments. My father and uncle shared the rest after all grandkids received the $10,000 payout. The house sold to the first offer of $520,000. That was just the regular revenge for the treacherous bee that ripped off my grandma and had her eating moldy food. Here is the pro revenge. My aunt probably probably felt pretty bad that she couldn't supplement her lifestyle with grandma's money anymore, but that was the least of her worries. Since she tried to personally rip me off for $10,000, I took it personally. I don't care how tough you are, the IRS is the scariest thing that can happen to a person. Nobody wants to have their money forcibly removed. I did a little research and found the 3949A, which is the IRS's information referral form. I also had the audit and legal office would provide the full trust and requested, demanded by the IRS. I don't know if it ever was. So I photocopied my documents, had them notarized, and sent off the info to the IRS. I felt like it went nowhere. Then maybe 18 months later, I was notified and asked to come to the IRS building for an appointment in my city. The agent went over all the details, what they found in their research, and then asked for a sworn statement. It turns out my aunt didn't declare something like $1.2 million in additional income over 5 years, and as such, she owed the IRS around $420,000 plus all the penalties. There was no way she was going to pay that on a teacher's pension. And after her husband's business went bankrupt, her house was sold, her vehicles were sold, they left the state. Now my aunt and uncle live in a depressing desert town in the southwest, similar to Good Springs. The IRS paid me around $60,000 about 3 months after the appointments. She should have just paid that $10,000. So was I the jerk for taking revenge on my aunt after what she did and getting a payout from the IRS of $60,000 into my pocket? This is pretty wild that the IRS paid the original poster here $60,000. That is more money than a lot of people will ever make in an entire year. I've always heard that was possible, that you could rat people out and get money from the IRS, but I've never actually seen a story where somebody does that. I'm assuming there's probably entire businesses dedicated to this to try and find people that are evading the IRS and turning them in and getting big checks like this, because that's a lot of money. I don't know how they do the breakdowns, but I'm assuming since she owed $1.2 million, that was the reason why the OP got paid so much here. But anyway, going to the core of the story, this is just a situation where somebody's greed goes too far. The aunt was probably tipping her toe in this whole stealing grandma's money thing just a little bit in the beginning, seeing if anyone noticed, and if nobody noticed or said anything, she would take a little bit more, and then a little bit more, and then a little bit more. So over the years, she ended up just basically thinking that she would never get caught and got greedy. And her only strategy for not getting caught once this all came to light was to try and convince the rest of the family that doing a $5,000 audit was too expensive. When there's this much money on the table, you got to assume people are going to do an audit. That is a wild assumption to think that they're not going to try and audit this. It's like she was stealing from every conceivable angle she could even think of. Food costs, cell phone costs, gasoline, paying other people, going to Europe, putting money into her husband's business. Is there even anything that she could have taken money from other than just putting the cash directly into her bank account that she didn't already do, or at least attempt to do? I mean, they even stole the grandma's physical assets, so who knows how much was actually stolen there, because she might have had gold or diamonds in the house. It is pretty sad that even though the grandma had all that money, in the end, she was just robbed and she had to sit in that house alone, nobody coming to spend time with her other than 1 hour a week eating moldy food. If this was your grandma and somebody had stolen this much money from them and tried to take your $10,000, how would you act? What would you do? Let me know down below, and jerk or not a jerk, and why. I'm a nanny and I found out that my boss is sharing private videos of me online. I've worked for a really nice normal family for a few months, at least I thought so. The kid is 10 months old and very sweet. She's super active though, and she often fights me on nappy changing. I have a gentle approach, and if she rolls/crawls away, I just encourage her to come back, let her play for a moment, and then try again. So as you can imagine, it can take a while. The family has cameras in both kids' rooms, which I don't mind and I was informed of, and they were just for safety mostly, especially at night with the rooms being spaced out and noise not traveling. Well, a family friend who knows the family contacted me last night and showed me that the mom had shared a video of me from the nanny cam of me changing the kid's nappy on Facebook with a caption that said, "Nanny taking half an hour to change a nappy," and a laughing emoji. There's comments basically making fun of me. One person even said to find a new nanny. She's replied saying things like, "We love our nanny," but was in hysterics watching this. I'm not gonna lie, I cried for about an hour. I'm a very private and highly anxious person, and I feel so hurt and betrayed by the mom. I work part-time and I was there after she shared the video and didn't say anything, and I'm supposed to be working on Thursday Thursday, but I'm dreading going. I kind of just want to ghost her and never go back again. I am so humiliated and I don't know how to deal with this going forward. The original poster answered some questions, the first of which was, wait, since you use nappy for diaper, are you in the UK? If you are, I think you might have legal recourse for either online harassment or that the mother violated your rights to privacy by posting it online. I would talk to a lawyer and get an expert opinion. The OP responds and said, Australia, I'll have a look into it. I am so incredibly sorry this happened to you, OP. You have every right to have your privacy respected, and she should be grateful for a nanny who understands her daughter and takes a gentle, loving approach with her. The OP says, thank you. This has been hard on me too. I take pride in my gentle approach. I have a bachelor's degree and an RIE certification. Seeing these moms pick apart my caregiving philosophy has upset me a lot. Jumping into the future, there's an update. I've sent the message. Basically, I told her that I saw the video and that it's inappropriate for her to share footage of me online without my consent, that I feel disrespected and I no longer will be a nanny for their family. I also sent a screenshot of the video and I've saved the video, so if she tries to gaslight me, I have the evidence. I'm currently a nervous wreck. Jumping into the future, there's a final update. I let her know I was quitting, that I saw the post, etc. She took a few hours to respond and her response was unhinged. She told me that I had no right snooping on her social media and that the footage was of her baby, so it was fine. She asked me to please come in until she found a replacement. I told her I was uncomfortable returning and that the video and the comments really upset me. She offered to remove the cameras, but I stood strong and I told her I was not coming back. I asked her to remove the video and according to the family friend, it's been taken down. However, she must have blocked me as I can't see her Facebook anymore. I haven't heard from her since Wednesday. A nanny friend of mine is moving overseas, so her family has an opening coming up and they are amazing. My friend has let them know that I'm looking, so I may have a new family already lined up. So, am I the jerk for how this was handled? The first thing that's strange in this is that she was snooping on her social media, which presumably was public because other people were responding, and she was able to see it herself before she was blocked. So I'm not sure if that exactly counts as snooping. And second of all, like other people pointed out, if the footage was of the baby, then why was the entire purpose of the caption on that video to poke fun at how long she was taking to change the baby? I'm guessing what happened here is the mom probably did this with little or zero ill intent, but instead just totally disregarded the privacy of somebody else who doesn't want a moment like that where they're the focus of the entire thing, shared for other people to ridicule and interpret however they want. It probably is going to put the mom in a tough position to find a replacement that fast, but at the same time, how can she expect her to come in when the OP feels totally embarrassed about this whole situation and violated? But let me know how you see this. Do you think the OP left the mom high and dry in this situation, or was she within her rights to just walk away from this entire thing as soon as she found out that her privacy had been violated? Let me know down below, and jerk or not a jerk, and why. Am I the jerk for taking my friend to a wedding instead of my boyfriend because he wants to bring his 4 children with us to an herb wedding? I'm a 30-year-old female and I've been with my boyfriend who's 33 for a little over a year, 16 months. My boyfriend has 4 children, a 12-year-old boy, a 7-year-old girl, 7-year-old girl, and a 5-year-old boy, all from a previous relationship. I met the children after we had been dating for 7 months, after meeting their mom around month 5. The biological mom and I get along well. I understand her concerns of being replaced and assured her I am not trying to take her place in any way. On to the situation. About 3 months ago, I received an invitation to the wedding of a friend. I'm allotted a +1 and naturally I invited my boyfriend. We discussed the theme of the wedding. It's an herb wedding, transportation, since there's an open bar, and a few other details. I discussed these plans with my BFF, who's a 31-year-old female. In case there was an emergency, she is my support system, as I am low contact with my family. Fast forward to the big day. After spending months discussing plans, my boyfriend shows up to pick me up for the wedding with his 4 children in the back seats. I look at him with a confused look and asked him what's going on. He says, "What do you mean?" And I say, "Why are the kids in the car? Did you forget you were picking me up for the wedding today?" "I didn't forget, I just thought this would be a good family outing." At this point, my mind is blown and I am frustrated. I asked him why he thought that, seeing as how we discussed the plans. He said it's not a big deal. They'll only be attending the ceremony. I inform him that my invite is for me and my +1, not a +5. And besides, nothing about this event is appropriate for children. He then says, "Okay, we can skip the wedding and just have a family day." I told him absolutely not, and that his bad decision making was not going to be my problem. I sent him on his way, called my BFF, and 2 hours later we attended the beautiful ceremony together. My boyfriend sees this on Snapchat and goes ballistic on me. How could I go without him? How could I replace him? How his children felt rejected? How I should have skipped the wedding for a family day. I waited until he ran out of steam and calmly told him that he made these choices. We had plans and he chose to try and change them at the last minute, that his changes were inappropriate and also not my problem. He called me a jerk and is refusing to speak to me until I apologize to him and to his children. He also wants an apology from my best friend forever, my BFF, for attending the wedding in his place. Jumping into the future, there's an update. I finally talked to my boyfriend. I showed up at his house this morning at 5 a.m. because the silence was driving me insane. He works overnight and gets off at 4 a.m., so I knew he was up and we discussed the situation and he did apologize. Apparently, he spoke to his children's mother and she ripped him a new one. She did text me this morning, I don't think she thought I was up, to try and help his case. Informed me that he didn't really grow up going to social events and the only wedding he's ever been to was family. Apparently, they just show up with friends and family, whatever that means. She also thanked me for having common sense and not taking her children to a quote effing herb wedding. And if she had known, she would have switched weekends with him or came with me herself. She told me to call her next time something like this happens. I just told her not to worry about it. Anyway, the conversation was productive. After he apologized, he explained that his babysitter, his sister, fell through. She tested positive for the vid, and he didn't know what else to do. He said he understood where he went wrong, but was too embarrassed to admit this to me. This was the red flag for me. I told him that I understood what happened and wished that he had just talked to me. He told me that it wouldn't happen again. I told him he was correct. It won't happen again because this would be our last conversation. 4 days of not speaking really spoke volumes, and the fact that he was too prideful to admit his faults didn't sit well with me. I also showed him this post and he got upset with me for sharing it. I told him it didn't really matter at this point and he accused me of not considering his feelings. I took all the advice I was given and just left. I didn't say goodbye, I just walked out and blocked him once I got to my car. My brain started to hurt at the thought of continuing the conversation, let alone the relationship. I just wanted to let y'all know that I handled it the way that it needed to be handled. I seriously thought I was wrong for how I spoke to him in front of his children. I'm going to sleep now because the situation has been plaguing me for a week and I'm tired. So, was I the jerk? The person that I feel for the most in this entire situation is the baby's mama. It sounds like that woman is going to be bound to this guy for the rest of her life, sort of as a pseudo babysitter cleanup crew for whatever he does. She's out there offering explanations of why he's behaving the way he is to his future girlfriends that came after her. I understand why she does it. It makes sense because she shares children with him, so she wants to make it as clear and transparent and easy to keep her children safe as possible. But I'm sure she doesn't want to do that. That's the scary part about having kids with someone. Once you have those kids with them, if you're looking out for the best interest of those kids, you're tangled with that person pretty much forever. The mother in this situation is pretty much putting her emotions to the side for the benefit of her children. She's saying, hey, call me anytime this happens, we'll figure it out. But even with all that, nobody wants a silent treatment for 4 days when they're not even the one that did anything wrong. So I completely understand the fact that she would just say, no, I'm not doing this, and she would just leave, referring to the OP obviously. So let me know how you see the situation and jerk or not a jerk and why. I started doing physical exercise to get in better shape. In one of my classes, 2 students became my worst bullies. They relentlessly bullied me every day that I came to class. They would look down on me because I was not in shape and they were very fit. But then it went too far and I had to get revenge. So I ruined their lives and exposed them for the snakes they are. Here's what I did. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk on YouTube and hit the bell to turn on notifications. I'm a woman originally from Russia. On New Year's Day of 2018, I resolved to get in shape. I was never overweight, but growing up in Russia and spending my very early adulthood there, I smoked like a chimney and my cardio was garbage. Going to college in America didn't help matters because I started drinking to go along with my smoking. I decided to start going to spin class. I work at a marketing firm and chose a particular spin class because I received a free year-long membership as a holiday office party present that year. It was a generous gift because it was a trendy, pricey boutique spin studio. I've ridden bikes my whole life, so I thought, how hard can it be to ride a bike that doesn't go anywhere? But my first day in class was a rude awakening. It was clear that the class that I was attending, an early morning class for people to attend before work, was an advanced one where a majority seemed to be already a part of the culture and very fit. It was obvious I couldn't keep up. The instructor was really nice and told me that since I'm new, it's a good idea for me to ride up front so that I can watch him and copy what he does more accurately. Or alternatively, he can easily see what I'm doing and offer alternatives if I'm not doing things right. I thought, what a great guy, and what a great class. There were these other two students in the class though who gradually made my morning spin classes suck. Valerie was obviously very fit. She looked like a model and obviously worked hard to look as good as she did. Boris was her male equivalent. They were both about my age, maybe a few years older, but it was clear they were far more fit than me. They were obviously very invested in that particular gym's culture and in what they were always decked out in the store brand athletic wear. I'm not gonna lie, they looked good wearing it. They weren't a couple, but it was obvious that Boris had a thing for Valerie, and Valerie was aware of it and not reciprocating. Whatever they were doing, it wasn't my business. That thing about both of them being far more fit than me, they didn't let me forget it. For some reason, they seemed to take offense to the fact that I was riding up front. I can see why. The front two rows were filled with the very strongest, fittest people, the let's take a selfie sort of gym people, except those ones seemed actually fit. At the same time, all the other super hot girls and guys, especially the guys, were very nice to me and didn't seem to care that I rode up front, whereas Valerie and Boris would always shoot these sideward disgusted glances at me or smirk. I'm not a confrontational person, so I wouldn't do the thing most people would do in that situation, such as say, "What the frick is your problem, B?" I always got to class super early to dress up and adjust my bike. The gym has a policy, first come, first serve, when it comes to choosing one of the 30 bikes in the studio. I noticed a lot of other people who show up early who are also clearly less fit than the stars that occupy the first couple of rows, but they seem to self-segregate into the very back. I was still new as it was my first couple of weeks, so I sat up front because I was still finding my rhythm. I'd sit right up front where the instructor told me so that I could watch him and he could watch me. Every time he would come in, he would greet me enthusiastically and praise me for my commitment to fitness. It was little wonder why his class was so popular. Everyone held him in high regard. Sometimes in class, he would shout encouragements to the class as a whole, but also gave personal shout outs to certain students, despite the darkness of the room. When the instructor said, "Great job there, OP, you're killing it," I noticed both Boris and Valerie give each other a look and shake their heads, laughing. I never knew for sure why Valerie hated me, but I think it might be because we were both Russian and no one else who went to that early class seemed to be, and she wanted to be the only Eastern European girl. Who knows? As for Boris, he followed Valerie because he wanted to get in her pants. Boris and Valerie usually showed up right when class was starting and the whole place was packed, and yet they were so entitled that there were always two bikes up front right next to each other reserved for them. Despite the crowd at 5:30 a.m., there were still a couple of empty bikes in the middle or back, but that wasn't good enough for them. I'd be right in the front row too. I got there early and it was my right to sit wherever I please, and yet despite them showing up at the last second, they shake their heads at me like I'm the one who's got a lot of nerve. Well, this goes on day after day for a whole month, and despite the fact that I'm no longer new and starting to get more fit and don't really need the instructor so much just to survive the hour on the bike, I still sit right up front. I thought maybe the particular bike that I was selecting had some significance to Valerie or Boris, and that's why they copped up such an attitude all the time. I always rode on the same bike. By this time, I was a bit chummy with a lot of the other women and knew their names, and we'd hug in the morning. I thought I should make peace with Valerie, if not Boris, who always gave me a "I hate you because Valerie hates you, but if there was no Valerie, I'd totally go out with you" type of vibe. So when I saw Valerie that morning, as usual, she showed up right when class started and sat next to me. I politely asked, "Was this your bike before and you were used to it? We can trade if you'd like." She rolls her eyes at me and gives Boris a look, and like a donkey, he smirks too. She actually says,
"You should sit in the back. We're moving people up here and you're hogging the mirror space."
There was a whole wall mirror in front of the classroom. I'm thinking, what is this, high school? What the heck? You've got to be 30 years old and you're acting like this? And seriously, you may be fitter than me, but I'm just as tall and I don't weigh any more than you do or take up any more space in the mirror, and it wouldn't matter even if I did. We're adults, or at least I am. That's what I wish I said. Instead, I just put my head down and went on with my class. Eventually, I got so familiar with the other students because the same regulars would come to class every day that we all became friends on social media. I even became social media friends with the instructor. I don't post much on social media. I don't show where I work or every single thing I do or my random brain farts. I just post the occasional photo. On one of these rare photos where I was admittedly begging for approval because I was proud of developing abs, the spin instructor himself commented how proud he was of me. A lot of people from spin class also said nice things. I was friends with neither Valerie nor Boris on social media, but they both liked the instructor's comment on my photo. And my guess is because they both like to kiss his butt. They certainly never showed me any kindness in class, unlike everyone else who was supportive of me. I clicked on their names and my suspicions were confirmed. Both of them practically lived on social media and took endless selfies showing off their body and humble bragging non-stop. They also made no secret of who their employers were. Valerie tried to claim that she was a model, even though it was clear her only real job was being a sales rep for a beauty brand. Valerie was only a model in the take a picture of yourself using your iPhone in front of the bathroom mirror sense. So Valerie, I guess that makes me a model too. These two were such idiots that they'd post really dumb things on each other's walls. It didn't seem like they really had lives other than to talk trash about people. I saw that they had one exchange where they were clearly talking about me. How do I know? Because they actually said my name and said that I was ugly and a wannabe and skinny fat and all this other horrible stuff. They also talked a lot about other people in the class and said horrible things and actually named names. It doesn't seem like they were friendly with the other people, even the very fit people who in some cases were even fitter. In terms of the class, they were social media friends with the instructor and some of the other teachers on the schedule, and with each other, but not anyone else. Anyway, I actually confirmed my suspicion that Boris was low-key thirsty. After the spin instructor made a nice comment on my picture and Boris saw that I existed online, he sent me a private message asking me to go for coffee sometime. I ignored the message, which is just as well because the next time in class he ignored me and just followed Valerie's normal smirk and routine. I don't like to start drama, but I don't like being bullied and trashed either. I screen captured and saved a lot of both Valerie and Boris's comments where they trashed at least a dozen people in our class and then made a dummy Facebook account. I fired off every screen capture to the owner of the studio, not just the manager of that particular branch, but the owner of the whole company in addition to the branch manager. I let them know that these two cretins were trashing many people in the morning class and creating a hostile, unwelcome environment. I was also nice enough to send the appropriate screen captures where Boris and Valerie named specific people in the class to those actual people they named, if their accounts weren't set up where only friends could message them or post on their feeds. In less than a week, Boris and Valerie were gone. Both had their memberships revoked and were banned from every one of the brand's studios. Several of the people that Valerie insulted were sufficiently offended that they sent emails to Valerie's employer. Valerie, as previously mentioned, made no secret of where she worked, about what a hateful, body-shaming person she was, and how such a person should not be any kind of brand ambassador. From what the other girls in the studio tell me, Valerie got fired from her job. Don't worry, Valerie, you still have your modeling career of taking selfies in your panties next to your toilet in your apartment. I had the pleasure of seeing some of the less patient, ripped, buff dudes in class who didn't find it amusing that Boris was telling Valerie on Facebook that he could beat up anyone in class, openly offering to let him test his theory anytime, anywhere. Unfortunately, Boris was too occupied up front getting his membership canceled and being refunded and being told to never come back please to make such arrangements. See ya, jerk. Boris had a wannabe unlicensed personal training business that he talked about on Facebook, and several of the men in the class who had legit training certificates shut him down with a quickness. There's always Starbucks. Maybe I'll go for coffee sometime and buy it from you, Boris Ista. As for me, I still show up early, but I usually find my comfort zone in row 2 now, or even further back. There's always new students and I like for them to sit right up front so they feel welcome. That's what it means to be in a fitness community. Everyone's welcome. This isn't some kind of high school cafeteria. You can't sit with us nonsense. I love the class so much I kept going into 2019 as a paying member, even after my free year was finished. In 18 months, I've posted pictures related to the spin class. That 4-pack is coming in nicely. Lol. From certain angles anyway. Goals. I haven't smoked in ages. I still drink like a fish. It's the Russian in me, I think. I honestly hope Boris and Valerie grew up. I low-key hope they marry because they deserve each other. Though I also hope they don't breed, because that much narcissism from two parents would result in a kid with a lot of issues. So am I the jerk for taking revenge on my two bullies? The little detail that stands out to me here is the fact that Boris asked the original poster out for coffee. So at some point, he must have been willing to lose his relationship with Valerie if he was able to hop from that ship into the ship of the original poster. But then she didn't respond, so he just went back to acting like normal. If she said yes to going out for coffee, would he really have been prepared to go against Valerie? Then suddenly Boris is no longer the bully, he would be the boyfriend if they got together because of that. I also get the sense that there's some sort of weird love triangle going on where Boris likes Valerie, but Valerie, even though we don't get any direct hints, maybe is into the instructor of the class. And because of that, she already dislikes everyone else in the class, but she hates the OP because the instructor is showing the OP attention. But outside of all of that, it's just really sad when people try and put down others that are trying to get into better shape. One of the quotes in response that really fits here is, mocking overweight people at the gym is like mocking alcoholics in AA. The fact that the OP is there means that she's trying, she's working on healthier habits. And the vast majority of people are encouraging about that, or at the very least will stay out of her way. So that's why I think the issue isn't really that the OP is out of shape and Valerie hates her for that for some reason. There's probably something more to this, like jealousy on the part of the OP receiving attention from the instructor. Or if not, if she's really just making fun of her because she's out of shape and she's in this spin class, then maybe she's just that insecure. But let me know how you interpret this whole situation. Do you think that her revenge on the bullies was going too far, or was it justified? Jerk or not a jerk, and why? Am I the jerk for being upset that my wealthy boyfriend got me a cheap gift? I'm a 21-year-old female. My boyfriend is also 21. He comes from a wealthy family, and I am from a middle-class family. His family went on a cruise, and all the siblings and their significant others came along. I was happy to be there and very grateful that his parents invited me. At one point, everyone was sitting down together, and my boyfriend started bringing out gifts. His parents and siblings and their significant others got things like watches, dresses, fine wines, and other clearly expensive things. When he got to me, he gave me one of those plastic bracelets with their company name on it. You can get those at the company's main headquarters for free. I was a little taken aback and a little embarrassed, but didn't want to be rude. Everyone was kind of looking at me in a way that they were both amused and also pitiful. I didn't want to complain, so I said thanks and moved on. When we got inside, I asked my boyfriend what that was about, and he told me to be grateful and stop complaining because he always gets me nice gifts, which is true. I just stopped pushing it because I felt like I was being selfish, and he did have a point. I feel like what he did was very degrading. He could have gotten me no gift at all, and that would have been less humiliating. I feel like trash for feeling this way. He's always been mindful, and I don't understand why he did that. It made me feel cheap in front of everyone. I don't know. Am I the jerk for feeling this way or even bringing it up? But before you decide, here's a little more information. Me and my guy have been dating for 2 years. His family and I get along very well. His parents paid for the cruise for everyone. Somebody pointed out that it's actually called a yacht and not a cruise. It's his family's yacht, and his parents paid for us, meaning they paid for the chefs, the butlers, the plane tickets to come out to that place. I didn't know there was a difference, minor detail, but yeah. Jumping into the future, there is an update. I straight up asked him what went through his mind when he did that. I told him I've been thinking about it ever since we came back from the trip. Why was he even giving out gifts? Why did he give me that? Why did he think it was okay? And actually, nobody guessed what the reason was correctly, and neither did I. He was giving out gifts because he wanted to give me a big gift, and I was supposed to be the last one. He actually had managed to set up a date with me and this adorable cat that I follow on TikTok. The owner lives close near the harbor where we'd be stopping, and I've loved this cat since 2020 when we first started dating. I still stalk the page regularly, but the owner had backed out last minute even after charging a ton of money. We were supposed to meet soon, but he didn't have a gift for me and basically got scammed. He said what he did was stupid, and he just took a bracelet out last minute to save face. But now he realizes it was stupid. As for his comments, he apologized and said he has no excuse. He said he was more angry with himself and the cat owner and just just took it out on me. I understood and forgave him because it was out of character, and I know he just wanted to do something nice for me. So, was I the jerk for being disappointed with the cheap gift that my wealthy boyfriend gave me? When the boyfriend first gave the OP that gift and then later on said that she should be grateful and stop complaining because he always gets her nice gifts, I immediately thought that this was some sort of test, like those gold digger pranks you see, or sometimes they call them gratitude tests to see if somebody will be happy even when they get a gift that's not great. There's actually a video that a lot of people were sharing recently where a guy brings a girl to McDonald's and he's filming her in the car and she gets upset and says, "I thought you were taking me out to eat," because she's all dressed up. And the guy says, "Yeah, I am. This is what we're gonna eat at McDonald's." But at the last moment, her disappointment turns into sort of a gratitude because she says, "Oh, they have great fries here." And then all the comments in response to that say, "She passed the vibe check. She passed the vibe check." So I definitely thought this was the direction it was going since he was so defensive, but the whole thing just happened because the cat owner canceled on him and he was frustrated. So he actually was angry at her in that moment, it sounds like, because he said he had no excuse for his comment there. So if your significant other gave you a gift like this, would it bother you or would you be fine with it? Let me know down below in jerk or not a jerk and why. Am I the jerk for bringing my sister-in-law's wallet to the restaurant when she conveniently always forgets it? I'm a 28-year-old female and my sister-in-law Amy, who's 26, always comes to visit from out of town. She stays with us instead of at a hotel and always wants to go to expensive restaurants. She always conveniently forgets her wallet or comes up with excuses as to why she can't pay her share. She has implied since I make much more money than her, I should be the one to pay. No, not my husband should pay, but me specifically. I do make a fair amount of money, but not so much that I can treat someone every time they come into town. Nonetheless, in the past, I have just paid the bill and asked her to pay me back, and she never has. She had made a reservation at an extremely expensive restaurant last night, and before we left, I made it clear that I wouldn't be paying her bill. This is where I might be the jerk. I'll admit I got this move straight from an episode of 2.5 Men. As we were leaving, her and her husband went to the car. I pretended to forget something and went back inside. I found her wallet sitting right on top of her suitcase. I put it in my purse and we went to the restaurant. When we were done eating, I asked for separate bills. She said, "No, we need one bill," because she forgot her wallet again. I reached into my purse and said, "This wallet?" She was extremely furious. She said that I should not have touched or grabbed her wallet. So, am I the jerk for taking her wallet and bringing it to the restaurant? I'm surprised that she would even continue to go eat out with her sister-in-law again after all this. Or if she did, as some people pointed out, bring her wallet but don't bring your wallet, so there's no choice but for her to pay for the whole bill. And if somebody said if you do that, then just never go to eat at a restaurant with her again. But honestly, this is some shady behavior from the sister-in-law. She's purposely trying to engineer these situations so that she can get delicious food and then put the bill on someone else every time. The OP is obviously married into the family, so she doesn't get a choice on who the sister-in-law is, but you still get a choice on who you want to spend your time with. Let me know how you would handle this down below in jerk or not a jerk and why.
My parents spend $500 on my Amazon account and then gaslight me into thinking I owe them. So this is an older story, so bear with me. A common thing to happen in my family is my parents demanding me to buy them stuff off Amazon because, well, they're entitled. I have Amazon Prime, so I understand using my account. However, they also make me use my debit card to pay for stuff and eventually do pay me back, usually. Still, it's incredibly annoying. It's never been a huge amount of money, but this time around it was a set of chairs worth $500. I rejected the idea, mostly given that I'm still in college and I only made $10 an hour at the time. $500 was about a fourth of the money I had in my bank account at the time. I told my entitled mother this and she went off on me, claiming I don't love her and that I don't trust her to pay me back, and she began to cry. You know, basic parental manipulation tactics. I eventually complied and bought her the chairs, so I'm out $500. She then tells me she'll pay me back in about 3 days when my father gets paid. 3 days later, still no money. To avoid a fight, I just bite my tongue. Then a week passes, and then another week. After about 2 weeks of not being paid, I was incredibly annoyed. I also worked almost every night this summer at a customer service job, so naturally I wanted to relax on my days off. Cue my parents deciding that we need to deep clean the entire house. I was helping, and then I receive an email about an interview for an internship that I've been working hard to accomplish. I was reading the email, and that's when it happened. I hear my mother's voice. "So, are you going to do any work today or just sit on your butt all day? I was really annoyed and said, really? You're going to say that after I brought those chairs for you? My dad then chimes in, you ungrateful son of a B-word. I pay for your college. I'm not doing anything until you pay me back the $500. My mother was now crying. You're so disrespectful after everything we've done for you. Some fun details, my parents don't actually pay for my college, all the loans are in my name. My father's ego was hurt after bringing up that fact. I threatened to return the chairs, which only caused more fights. Long story short, I literally had to tattle on my father to my grandmother to get my money back, and now they have their chairs. This is a normal thing, and I really see myself going no contact in the future. Some more details that people requested. My parents act helpless when it comes to technology, so I appreciate all the suggestions to make them a separate Amazon account, but that won't work. My parents make me use my money and my account. No, they won't let me use their bank accounts. They're too afraid of getting their info stolen. But my info being stolen is fine, right? Am I being too pedantic? Am I the jerk here? Peas and rice. So your parents are just sitting there waiting for the good little Amazon fairies to drop their free stuff off at their house? Don't they think that the money spent on Amazon is real money or something? Oh, well, no, it sounds like they know what they're doing. I'll admit, when I was a young guy and I first got a credit card, it felt like I wasn't spending any money on the variety of stupid things that I was buying online, even if in reality I was frittering it all away. So maybe your parents are about as dumb as the rest of us were in our late teens and early 20s? Plus, I guess for them it's an extra degree of removal because it's their kid paying for it, not them through a credit card. Anyway, they seem like dumb entitled jerks who don't understand how money works, and that's me giving them the benefit of the doubt. They're probably just awful tightwads who are ringing you for all you're worth. Up to you as to whether you go no contact, though. Today I messed up by smelling my feet and ending up in the ER. So this story actually happened today, or at least in the last 24 hours at time of writing. Either way, I'm counting it. I'll be the first to admit that sometimes my feet are a bit smelly. Some of my friends and family have lovingly said they are odorly challenged. I wash them in the shower every day. I've tried the fancy creams, but none of it really seems to help, and I've at this point accepted that I'm just naturally a stinkfoot with a constant faint corn chip aroma wafting from my toes. I live alone, and when in my apartment, I prefer not to wear socks or shoes. This is occasionally a point of contention with my girlfriend, who visits often and insists that I wear socks when she comes over. It's mostly fun banter where she teases me for my feet smelling, and I tease her for a loud burp or something like that. But sometimes, after a particularly long day, the foot factory releases emissions that would surely get me fined by EPA, which she rightfully hates. When I mentioned it to my doc during my annual physical, it was the one time that I'd scrubbed them practically raw in anticipation of my visit, and he said they didn't smell, so it was fine. I also tried antifungal creams, and they did nothing, unfortunately. I should probably go back though and let him get the full experience. So anyway, yesterday my girlfriend came over for dinner. It was a nice day, so we decided to get delivery from one of our favorite restaurants and eat on the balcony. Well, I'm at home and I've already liberated my tootsies from their foot prisons, and I figured it'd be nice to set the table with some flowers for my lady. I was outside setting up when she arrived, and she came outside to greet me. Immediately she smelled my feet and recoiled in disgust. The most dramatic reaction ever. Fake vomiting, fake crying, she was hamming it up as part of our banter. I have gone a bit noseblind to them over the years, so I lean up against the railing to go to smell them myself to see how bad they were. This was my mistake. I'm a burly guy, and this poor railing could not handle my equally overdramatic reaction of throwing back my head and screaming. It gave way. Luckily, I'm only on the second floor, so I only fell maybe 25 feet, but it felt like it lasted a solid minute. It was at least a long enough of a fall for me to reflect on the situation and feel like an idiot for dying from smelling my own feet. I got lucky that I landed just right and did minimal damage. There were also some pine needles to break my fall, but I don't know how helpful they were since I still really hurt all over. The aftermath is a fractured rib and a dislocated shoulder, and my girlfriend are never letting me live this down. In short, I smelled my feet, the railing went yeet, almost died, and I fell like sheet. As a late update, alright guys, I appreciate the foot health advice, but please stop writing into me with weird remedies. I'm not going to pee on my feet or soak them in tomato bleach medley. I'll just go back to the doctor though once I'm all healed up. Well, I wouldn't say anyone you mentioned was a jerk here. Not even the many people trying to tell you about it. I've known some shockers with absolutely toxic feet in my time, and most people are far from kind to them when they bring their gaseous weapons to bear on a room full of poor, unsuspecting civilians. Your landlord or building manager might be a jerk though, if you report this to them and they don't do anything to fix the problem. If that had happened on a higher level, it definitely wouldn't have been okay. If you live in the States, you could probably sue as is. But for the main issue at hand, that being your lethal footsies, maybe just start looking into regular over-the-counter remedies and old sports foot powder to solve the problem. I mean, it doesn't solve it, but it makes the smell less bad. They're a way to reduce the smell without actually curing it, at least, which you say hasn't worked for you so far. Best of luck. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, linked below. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Entitled mother lets entitled kid break the #1 unwritten rule of tabletop. So this happened a few years ago. I live near the headquarters of a tabletop games company, which is a bit of a tourist attraction for gamers, and part of the building is a massive gaming room with loads of tables with different scenery for all the different games they make. So my opponent and I decided that we'd meet on the weekend to have a game together. Now, I won't say I'm a major league painter, but I've won local competitions and had a few really cool converted models. It was really quiet at the tables for a Saturday. As we were pulling out our armies out of their cases and setting up, we spotted Entitled Mother and Entitled Kid coming out of the on-site pub. The kid looked about 8 or 9 and hyperactive as all hell. As I was pulling out a few vehicles, these two come up to our table and start looking over my shoulder at everything in front of me. And as I turn back to my table, I notice that Entitled Kid has picked up my leader model with what looked like sticky Cheeto-dusted fingers. #1 rule of tabletop: never touch anyone else's models without permission. So I said, "Sorry, my dude, could you put that back on the table? I need to use him for a minute." In comes Entitled Mother. "Excuse me, he's just looking." Why she needed to raise her voice was beyond me. So I said, "Sorry, but as you can appreciate, I'm about to play, and your son didn't ask to—" Crack! The Entitled Kid had dropped the pewter model, sending the limbs in different directions as it hit the stone floor. "Are you bloody serious?" The kid ignores me and says, "Mum, I want to go to the shop now. I want orcs like this guy." My opponent even comes in. "Dude, you just seriously smashed his boss and you're not even going to say sorry?" Mother has the nerve to look indignant. "It's just a toy, get over it." She grabs her kid by the wrist and paces off. I was on my hands and knees picking up the parts and placing them on the foam on my case. Not only had it fallen to pieces, but a lot of the paint on the face had been scratched, meaning that I'd have to rebuild and repaint him. It felt life-draining to have something you put the effort into destroyed in a second. I saw Entitled Mother and Entitled Kid leave the shop part, and I flipped her off, and she just seemed to scowl at me. My boss was never the same as the first time I painted him, but I moved on. I hope this doesn't happen to other people. For those asking, I was playing Warhammer 40k at Warhammer World HQ in Nottingham. I didn't call the police or anything. As I mentioned in the intro, I'm an idiot and I was preoccupied making sure I had all the pieces, and my opponent was on a tight schedule. I ended up having to hold on to his case for the night as he had to leave for work right after the game, so I wanted to get the game started and finished as soon as possible. My God. So I would guess that the majority of the audience doesn't yet know of the immense investment of time and energy that goes into the hobby of Warhammer. Even those of us who play underestimate just how much of our salaries we end up spending on it, to be honest, and the quick painting evenings we plan out could end up going several hours past midnight on one model. And your army's leaders are often the best-looking and most carefully painted models in one's table. So at minimum, this kid shattered something that had cost $30, likely far more, and that had taken a minimum of 5 hours painting and assembly. So that's infuriating, and clearly the narrator is way too emotionally close to the subject to remain unbiased. I can appreciate that to anyone else like Entitled Mother, it probably would just seem like a toy. But it's basically a day's loving work down the drain because one woman couldn't control her kid. Hopefully she got a horrible shock when she went into the store and realized how much it cost. Am I the jerk for refusing to stop seeing my granddaughter despite my son's wishes? My 40-year-old son is what people call a ladies' man. I had no problem with it until last year when he got a 20-year-old girl pregnant because he said that regular protection doesn't work for him, so they had unprotected fun. When he found out about the baby, he blocked the mum and ghosted her for a month. He came to tell me about it once his baby's mum reached out again, saying that he didn't have to care for the baby but that he had to pay child support. I was shocked and told him he could either step up or not, but that I would have a relationship with the child because it's my only grandkid. He chose not to step up and tried to fight child support, but a month ago he was placed on it. Now that my granddaughter Lily is born, I've been helping to pay for everything because her mum is in college and my son quit his job so his payment would go down. I'm very disappointed in him. I watch Lily during her mum's classes and pay for her to have a nanny so the mum can work hard to get her degree. Money is no problem for my family, but my son is very angry that I'm helping them out. He says that they shouldn't get my money and that if the mum needed help, then she should have aborted it. I told him that I'll continue to help them because my granddaughter is innocent in this and that he was the one who refused to wear protection, so they shouldn't have their life ruined because of that. He said that it's either him or them, and I said that I would always help my granddaughter. He stopped talking to me, and my daughter said that I went too far and that I should just cut ties with them. Am I the jerk for helping them against my son's wishes? No! What a crapbag of a son! Not only is he refusing to do anything to help the situation he's the most to blame for, he's also trying to stop other, better people from helping out the daughter of his mother. He's quit his damn job so that he'd have to do less to help them out? It's just so pathetic. If you don't wrap it up, prepare for consequences, jerk. And I've just gone up to read it again, and I've seen that the person who I assumed was a dumb 20-year-old guy is actually 40. I just kind of assumed that he was a moron of a man-child, but what do you call that same kind of guy if they're still behaving that way 15 years after it's acceptable to be a man-child? Frickin' gross. How do you get to be 40 and have no concept of responsibility? The author, his mother, is a much better person than him. How are they related? Racist entitled aunt demands my Muslim girlfriend leave our Christmas party because she isn't family and believes in, quote, the wrong God. Hi folks, a little backstory. My dad is Muslim and really wanted one of his children to marry a Muslim. Then I met a really sweet Muslim girl at school, and you could clearly see she's a Muslim and has Arabian roots, which is important to the story here. But my aunt on my mum's side was a really religious Christian and hates other religions. That's all you need to know to follow the story. So, here we go. Me and my family arrive at the Christmas party and search for our grandma, who organized the party. Me and my girlfriend go sit down next to my siblings and cousins. It was really nice until my entitled aunt arrives at the party with her nice boyfriend and their kid, who by the way isn't entitled and doesn't affect the story. This was the first time my girlfriend was at a family gathering, so my aunt sees her for the first time, and then the following conversation occurs.
Who are you? I've never seen you here.
My girlfriend says, I'm the author's girlfriend.
You aren't from around here, are you?
My parents are Arabian? My aunt turns around to me and whispers,
Why are you dating someone like that?
Because I like her and she's really sweet. My aunt turns back to my girlfriend.
Can you go back home? I already have to deal with one Muslim,
referring to my dad.
And I can't deal with a second one.
Why should I go and what's wrong with being Muslim?
You should just go. You guys believe in the wrong God and don't even celebrate Christmas.
I say to my aunt, stop it. If she wants to be here, she gets to be here. My aunt comes in with what she thinks is the biggest own of all time.
But she isn't even family.
Yeah, that's true, but you and your new boyfriend aren't married, so why does he get to be here?
Well, we're both Christians, so we are family via our religion.
I can't believe she just handed me that one. Well, okay, we're done talking then, because my dad and my girlfriend are family via my religion. My aunt was visibly changing color as she said,
Just tell her to go. We don't want someone to blow up the house.
She actually freaking said this. And my dad, who heard everything and was angry as hell, said, Alright, that's enough. If you're going to be that racist again, I will personally take care that you'll never be at a gathering ever again.
Oh, so you're threatening me? Huh, I should have known. That's the only thing your race is able to do.
My dad was about to jump on my aunt, but was stopped by me and her nice boyfriend. I said to her boyfriend, maybe it's better if you and Aunt go back home. Yeah, I think that's best for us all. He agreed and left. This happened last Christmas, and my girlfriend is still not fully over it. She doesn't really feel comfortable anymore at family gatherings, but my grandma said if she wanted to come, she just wouldn't invite my aunt. That's it, thanks for listening, and I hope you have a nice day and stay healthy. My God, well, who could blame your girlfriend? And honestly, in yet another of the quirks of genetics and attraction that's happened in this video alone, how has this spawn of Satan posing as a devoted Christian managed to have a nice boyfriend and a kid that isn't awful? Maybe she's the quirk in the family. Grandma seems pretty cool. How's that for you, entitled aunt? You made the older generation seem positively chill and open-minded. So thanks for adjusting some of our ageist biases a bit. Also, the fact that this woman decided to show up at someone else's party and to just try to force someone to leave probably tells you everything you need to know about her. Maybe you should marry your girlfriend and alienate that other monster, and the rest of you will be happier for not having to see her anymore. Maybe issue an invitation to her boyfriend and kid though, they seem cool. Am I the jerk for sitting on a man's hand after he refused to remove it from the empty seat? Okay, pretty sure I was the jerk here, but we'll see. So I, a 30-year-old woman, am 8 months pregnant. I take public transport to work daily. I'm always exhausted because I have to work extra time to be able to afford basic necessities. I take the bus to work every day, and oftentimes it's packed, but I get lucky enough when decent folks volunteer their seats for me. Now, I should mention that I don't use my pregnancy as an excuse to get what I want, but people just offer me their places by themselves, which is kind and sweet. Wednesday, I get on the bus like usual, but this time there's one empty seat. I go to sit, but I find a guy in his business attire sitting there with his hand on the empty seat, sort of like resting it. I say, "Excuse me," and ask him to remove his hand so I could sit, but he tells me the seat was taken. I ask by who, and he says his hand. Not gonna lie, I laughed a little bit, but wasn't feeling well, so I asked him to remove it so I could sit, but he refuses again, and by now people are staring. I tell him I'm tired and I need to sit, and he replies, saying that my pregnancy isn't his problem. I've had enough at this point, my legs were burning and my back was hurting. So I go ahead and sit on his hand. He freaks out and tries to remove it quickly while shouting at me. He then starts arguing about how disrespectful I was to do this inappropriate thing, and in public no less. I argue back, but then he gets off saying that I was being inappropriate and disrespectful. Everyone is staring at me and I just sit there feeling a bit of shame about what happened. I tell my husband about this incident and he what the fricked the entire time, and then says that I did indeed act inappropriately and I shouldn't have made this guy uncomfortable by sitting on his hand like that. He tells me I messed up and this was completely inappropriate, despite me saying I was so tired of standing and was in desperate need to sit down. So, am I the jerk? Oh, and to answer several questions, like I said, I often get offered seats from others, so I'm being treated well most of the time. But unfortunately, I run into some people who don't do that. This guy seemed to be upset about something, and then the argument probably made it worse. I could have de-escalated by maybe talking to the driver. However, I'm pretty sure he didn't pay for the seat just to put his hand on it. Who does that? Also, most of the passengers were younger people that day. I normally would get a seat from older people. Wait, what country is this in? If I were there, I'd have been 100% on your side. I'm not even sure I would have sided with him if you weren't pregnant. This just sounds like an awful selfish jerk. The nerve to claim that your hand needs the seat and that he's unwilling to just engage in public social decency of giving seats to those who need it? Not cool. I mean, most of us will fervently hope that no one sits next to us and mentally curse when they do, but the percentage of people who actively resist people taking available seats like this has got to be tiny. Although, if you want to know my best method for making sure someone doesn't sit next to me, I just smile inanely and pat the seat as they come close. That will make sure they want to sit on any seat but yours.
I work in a car dealership and a spoiled brat and her father came into my store and demanded her father to buy her a brand new BMW as her very first car. When things didn't go her way, she exploded, screaming and running in there, thinking that it would help her get the BMW, but it didn't. It backfired and blew up in her face worse than she expected. Here's what happened. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk on YouTube and hit the bell to turn on notifications. This is a tale from retail sell in auto sales. The awesome dad is played by Robert Downey Jr., the spoiled brat is played by Julia Childs, and I am played by John Cho. We now join our hero as he attempts to smash his head into the desk, sell the spoiled brat a vehicle. As I'm standing next to a used 2012 BMW 328xi Coupe, I say, so as you can see, this is going to be the best fit for your budget and your needs, and not to mention some of the high-end features you were looking for. The spoiled brat says,
Oh, Daddy, I don't want a used car. I only get new cars.
The dad, giving me an exasperated look, says, Sweetie, I don't know what your mom told you, but I'm not buying you a new car. Besides, you don't get any cars. This is your first one. The spoiled brat, now whining, says,
But Suzanne got a brand new Mercedes for her graduation.
I stared at her, mentally banging my head against the glass of the BMW. I imagined it shattering and me dying in the process. But what I said was, yes, but your dad told me that he has a certain budget to deal with. This is a very nice car with less than 20,000 miles on it. It runs and drives like new. I turned to the dad and said, wow, that sounded cliche. I apologize. The dad, laughing, responded saying, sure was, boyo. But I think I'll take it despite your cliched outburst. We headed inside while the spoiled brat tapped away angrily on her phone. Insert the boring negotiation montage here that ended up concluding with the dad saying, well, I think that does it. I think we have a deal. Thank you. In that moment, the spoiled brat cut him off, annoyed, and said,
Are you freaking serious, Daddy? I am not driving some used car. Even Miranda, the poor girl, got a new Toyota.
The dad then angrily said, I am not buying a new car. Maybe you can ask your mom to do that. Oh wait, she would rather spend her money on a vacation to Italy and not take her daughter. The spoiled brat launches into a tirade of cursing, screaming, and generally throwing a tantrum. The dad stands up calmly, shakes my hand, and apologizes. Well, boyo, it looks like my daughter's got a lot to learn about appreciating free things. Maybe her friends will let her ride on the new cars because she will be taking the bus, and she'll need to get a job now to pay for that.
Oh, I'm sorry, Daddy. I want the car now.
It's too late, spoiled daughter. You dug yourself into a hole. Better ask your mom in 2 weeks when she gets back from Italy. The spoiled brat proceeded to run outside crying while her dad shook my hand. Oddly, I felt something crinkle into my palm and I looked down to find that he shoved a $100 bill into my hand. That's for wasting your time and costing you money. But that spoiled girl ain't getting a car from me. Let her stepfather get her one. Thanks, I definitely appreciate it, and best of luck. With that, he walked out and got into his car and they both took off again. Not 2 weeks later, the spoiled brat came back and was driving a broken down Honda. It turns out that that is the car that her new dad got her. Paid a whopping $500 for it and it needed service. She didn't even look at me as she walked in. The score came out to awesome dad, 1 million points, the spoiled brat, 1 hefty repair bill. So was I the jerk for not stepping in. When the spoiled brat says, even Miranda the poor girl got a new Toyota, that just shows how she thinks about others around her. She just classifies her entire personality, this girl Miranda, as being the poor girl. If you're poor, you don't have any other defining attributes other than being poor. That's a pretty sad perspective to have. And what kid thinks it's normal to get a brand new BMW coupe as their very first car? I mean, even in rich families, is that a normal thing to just say, hey daddy, give me the BMW please? I mean, I guess he actually was gonna still buy her a BMW, just not a new one. 20,000 miles is nothing on it. I'm guessing for some reason the girl just wants to be able to say that it was a new BMW when really there's no functional difference, I'm sure, between this and a brand new BMW, unless you wanted the look of a specific car. But in the end, her acting like this totally blew up in her face because instead of getting the BMW coupe with 20,000 miles on it, she ended up getting the $500 Honda that I'm sure probably has over 100,000 miles on it. If you've ever met somebody spoiled like this in your life, let me know down below in the comments, or if you have a full-on story, you can submit the story via the link down below in the description. But jerk or not a jerk, and why? My revenge story almost killed a man. About 3 years ago, I was working in a pretty big factory. They hired through 5 different temp services, so the place was pretty much like a revolving door. People came and left without any warning. Sometimes it was just hard to find a familiar face. So when someone started stealing my lunches, everyone became a suspect. After after falling victim to the lunchbox bandit for a week straight. I'm talking about 6 12-hour days with no lunch. Needless to say, the frustration spawned several evil plans, but I felt the Carolina Reaper would give me the fastest and most effective results. All I know was people were going to think twice before stealing lunches. I spent all night making the best steak fajitas for lunch the next day. I finally minced the Reaper peppers into a nice pico de gallo and topped my devil fajitas off. I carefully placed my fajitas into a Tupperware bowl, garnished them with cilantro and limes, then covered them with a clear lid to display their beauty. The next morning, about an hour after I placed them in the fridge, a woman started screaming for help. I ran to the lunchroom to find the lunchbox bandit lying on the floor gasping for air. The Reaper peppers triggered an asthma attack and he had to be rushed to the hospital. He never said anything and neither did I until now. Was I the jerk for putting Carolina Reaper peppers into my lunch to teach the lunchbox bandit a lesson? There's not many things that will piss somebody off faster than eating their lunch when they won't have any other alternate options. This guy is working 6 12-hour days in a row with no lunch. I think that's bound to make anyone a little bit loopy. I don't know if he knew that putting the Carolina Reapers in the food could possibly give someone an asthma attack, but those things can be pretty dangerous. I'm guessing he probably just thought it was a really spicy thing and he would find out who the lunchbox bandit was because they were running around trying to find water or something to make it less spicy in their mouth. But he probably just put so much of it that that's what led to the guy having an asthma attack. If someone was stealing your food, what would you do? Let me know down below in jerk or not a jerk and why. This next story is actually in response to the Carolina Reaper story. This is how a booze bandit at work got caught and ended up drinking pee. There used to be a lot of drinking in auto factories. Long hours and hard work made people want to escape by getting and staying sloshed at work. I retired not too long ago, and I've got to tell you, the kids nowadays are not near as bad as the people I worked with 40 years ago. People used to hide their drink anywhere, but not in their lockers. If it was found in your locker, you could be fired. Once in a while, a slime ball would find a drink and gulp it down. If it only happened once in a while, pilferage was overlooked, but some dingleberry decided to look for other people's drink and steal it on a regular basis. This went on for far too long. Then the person probably responsible was found out. He was the one that turned white as a sheet and had to leave the lunch table after one of the guys told his fellow employees of having reached the end of his patience and of having filled a third of his bottle with urine, hiding it and finding it empty. Now, to be fair, maybe the guy just had a weak stomach and it hadn't been the booze bandit after all. He was a known lush and often not honest, so maybe. Also, the regular unauthorized booze withdrawals stopped after that. That was vicious. This might be the only thing that people would be more upset about losing at work than their lunch, especially if they've just been perpetually sloshed for years at a time at work and then suddenly somebody takes their drink. The OP here makes it sound like maybe it wasn't the same guy, but the fact that they stopped having their drinks taken after this situation happened makes it seem like it's pretty clear that they found the booze bandit. And this is like some sort of adult Easter egg hunt. They have these flasks hidden all over an auto factory because drinking on the job is fine as long as it's not in your locker, as if that makes sense. Doing it is no problem as long as it's inconvenient to do it. Maybe the management knew it was going to happen anyway and this is just their way of slowing it down. But let me know, do you think peeing in the bottle was going too far or do you think it was justified? And jerk or not a jerk and why? Am I the jerk for refusing to let an artist whose designs I use promote their work on my page? So I'm in the business of selling custom and esoteric t-shirts online through my website and through my Instagram page. I have a weird rule though. I personally hate having names on my clothing, so I don't sign my name on any of the designs because I think the clothes shouldn't be an advertising tool since they're not my property anymore. It's fine because I do most of the artwork myself, but I was slammed with orders a couple months back, so I couldn't have time to work on more original designs since I had a lot of custom work to do. I decided to buy the design so that I could relieve some of the burden. I found a young artist whose designs I liked and told her the kind of designs and drawings that I wanted from her. I told her about my rule and that she couldn't sign her designs and if she was okay with it. I told her I would be purchasing these designs, not licensing from her, and that they'd be my property from then on. I offered to pay a premium as well. I told her if it was okay, if she didn't want to do it and I could find somebody else. So it's been all good and the t-shirts with her designs have been selling quite well. I haven't released all of them yet and I released them batch by batch. Under my most recent batch of photos that I uploaded, I found her commenting saying that she designed this t-shirt and to check out her page where she's selling more of these designs and has started taking customers' orders for tees. I deleted the comments, contacted her, and told her that she should not be commenting on my page since these weren't even her designs anymore and that I had purchased them from her. She got mad and told me she still did the design and had the right to promote herself using them. I told her to stop and that I would be suing her if I found her claiming to own these designs in the future. We have a contract. She's basically promoting herself using my business and she's a direct competitor, but quite a small scale. Since people seem concerned about the age, she's 23 years old and I'm 28 years old. So I think I'm right, but am I the jerk? I can see why the OP would be frustrated here, and I can also see why the young artist would want people to know that she was the one who designed these things. This is one of those situations where it would have helped to have this conversation before going into this sort of agreement with someone, and it's also hard to know if he's already trying to tell people that he is the creator of these, because if that's the case, then that's just not true. But if you already agreed to credit her and he is crediting her, then yeah, he's probably going to be frustrated that she's doing this. There's a couple crucial pieces of information that are missing here to really know where this all lands. I mean, he does say that she's basically trying to recruit people that are commenting on these designs to her own thing, which he describes as being a direct competitor. Another question to ask here is, how much was he directing her to make these designs in the first place? Did he already have the idea and he told her what he wanted and then she just brought that to life? Because that is also a very different situation than just saying, make a cool design from scratch, from nothing. Because if that's what she did, then she really did design this thing through and through. So with the information we have, let me know how you see this down below, and jerk or not a jerk, and why. Am I the jerk for telling the truth and exposing a web of lies my wife spun? My wife has been lying a lot lately. She is overly conscious of people's feelings and she uses white lies to shift the blame on others to lessen the blow of a situation, always to her benefit. She will find herself in situations where she wants to back out of weekend plans with her friends or explain why she did something seemingly rude, etc. But she always blames me.
My husband doesn't want me to leave this weekend. Sorry, he's such a jerk.
Or,
I only screenshotted this conversation we had because my husband told me that he wanted to see it.
sure, I can handle someone confronting me about that stuff far better than she can. She has high anxiety when it comes to confrontation, but I'm really sick of being her scapegoat and letting people think that I am a selfish jerk. I was watching our kids this weekend while my wife hosted a bachelorette trip for her friend at my wife's aunt's lake house. Last night, my wife calls and says I can come over with the kids, rather than wait till early this morning like planned. I get to the lake house and the girls are all still out at a bar somewhere, so I let myself in and put the kids to bed. My wife's aunt texts her after seeing me on her security camera and tells her she is upset that I was there. That's weird to me because she and I get along very well, and I'm even renting a house from her. She has really high anxiety, but she manages it most of the time. She then texts me this morning and begins yelling at me about how I had no right to invite myself over and that I'm a bad father. Naturally, I was shocked and asked her what she meant. It turns out that my wife texted her saying that she didn't know I was coming and that I'm an incompetent father and she had to help me because I didn't know how to watch my own kids. I told her that that was not true and that my wife invited me to come because she knew it was closer to my work and I could sleep in rather than getting up early to bring the kids. I, of course, confronted my wife about why she would lie about me and say things like that about me. She then gets mad and says she was doing damage control on the situation and that it's far better if her aunt is mad at me than her. So now we're fighting because I, of course, don't appreciate being put in that situation, but my wife thinks it was a necessary sacrifice to keep her aunt happy with her. So am I the jerk for telling the truth and exposing a web of lies that my wife spun? This is awful. How deep does this go? The wife just casually makes these lies, which are much bigger than white lies, by the way, to paint her husband in such a horrible light when it's not even true in order to save herself and keep her own relationships healthy. Who would want to be with somebody who habitually does that to them? In one of the responses, one section says, it has already gone to the point where she is way past believing her own lies and the foundation is set where everyone in your mutual support network is against you. And how can you blame her family for being so ferociously against you when it's been established that you are consistently behaving like a monster for months now? You could literally be one bad panic lie away from losing your kids or getting arrested for abuse. That is a very accurate explanation of the danger that he's in, because who knows when the day will come when she just panics and just says something that's totally totally out there, and people believe it to be true about this husband. He really could lose his kids. So if this was you and you were married to this person, how would you handle this? Where do you even begin having this conversation? Let me know down below, and jerk or not a jerk, and why. Am I the jerk for letting my neighbor pack my lunch for me? My wife used to pack lunch for me, but I noticed a while back that she stopped making lunches like she used to. Before, she would try and get creative with it, take her time, try new recipes, put a little special touch here and there, etc. Then I felt like it just became, okay, this is what the kids are having, I'll just make an extra one of that and give it to him. I would then make my own lunch, but for one, it's not the same as when she makes it though. And two, I work in construction, so by the time I come home, all I want to do is hit the sheets, and all the places to get lunch near the construction site are expensive, so I'd rather just bring something from home. So I brought it up to her one day and we talked about it, and she told me that she had so many things to do in a day that she didn't have as much time to put her energy into making my lunches like she used to. But I could see that she genuinely felt bad because I noticed the next few lunches were more polished than previous ones. And I appreciated her so much for trying that when the quality of the lunches started to go down again, I didn't even have the heart to complain. Fast forward, I have a day off, so my wife drags me to a Bible study that was being hosted at a neighbor's house. The food was so good that I kept going back for more. After my third plate, the woman who had made the food and I started talking. Basically, she told me that she was flattered that I liked her food so much and that she was training to be a chef and that she had more food that she would like to try out. I told her that would be perfect because I am always looking for different things to try, and whatever food she had made, I could just pick up in the morning and take with me to lunch. We exchanged information, and the next day she sent me an address to her home, which turned out to be right on my way to work and not too far from the construction site. So that's where I've been getting lunch for the past few days. I told my wife that she didn't have to make lunch for me anymore, and she didn't say anything until today. She said she thought I was getting lunch from the store, and I said that I don't see why it matters where I'm getting it from. She said she doesn't want me to pick up lunch from there anymore, and I told her she was being unreasonable for no reason. We had a big argument a few hours ago, and she's still mad. I really don't see what the problem is. She doesn't have to worry about taking time out of her day to make lunch for me, and I'm getting quality lunches again. How is this not a win-win for everybody? I'm confused. I know what everyone is implying, but it can't be because she thinks I'm cheating. I told her that she can literally check my hours. When I arrive at work, I have to clock in. If I was going over to her place to cheat, I would be clocking in late. So am I the jerk for letting my neighbor pack my lunch for me instead of my wife? Before I even talk about how the wife might feel in this situation, the chef in training probably didn't expect the OP to go get lunch every single day. If that was a conversation they had, then the OP probably would have mentioned that or included it somehow, but this chef person is just paying for this guy's lunch forever? And even if that's not the case, if he's giving her money for food, the wife is going to still be upset. One response that summed up the way the wife probably feels in a concise way is somebody that said she's upset because you made her feel that preparing your lunch every day was an important part of taking care of you. Then you basically said, never mind, I met someone else who wants to take care of me. I get what the OP is logically trying to say. He's saying that she's really busy, she has a lot going on, and so this will take one extra responsibility off of her plate. But the way the wife probably wants that to be solved is either by him doing it himself or finding a solution that doesn't make it seem like it's another woman that is competing for this position. I got the impression that the wife knew about this the entire time, but the way he explained the situation ends with the wife being surprised. She didn't know that he was getting this food from this woman. She even says, I thought you were going to the store to get it. So even though he's not cheating, it sounds like he's being purposely deceptive for some reason, but yet thinks it's obvious that the wife should understand. If that was the case, then why didn't he just bring it up when he started going there? But let me know how you see the situation down below, and jerk or not a jerk, and why. A scammer tried to gain access to my computer by pretending to be something that he wasn't and ultimately hacking into my computer. When he connected to my computer, he was vulnerable because I was connected to his computer. So I hacked him before he could hack me and destroyed all the files I could on his computer so he couldn't continue to scam other people. Here's how I did it. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk on YouTube and hit the bell to turn on notifications. Here's the background. I got our home phone number long before cell phones were a common thing to have. As things evolve, that phone number is a part of my history and is utilitarian to use for things that I don't want ringing on my cell phone, like 99% of anything that requires a phone number for no good reason. So I have kept that phone number alive over the years. Most recently, I moved it a few years back to an online service that charges a tiny amount of money per month to host it for me. I access it via WaffleTinsel client on my computer. So here's the story. Because of the nature of the phone number, it randomly rings. If I have time, I mess with whomever is calling. Most of the calls are, your car warranty is about to expire kind. Some of the calls are about non-existent credit cards, but my favorite calls are from the scammers. I record all calls that come into this phone number. In my state, only one person needs to know that a call is being recorded. And besides, these scammers are all overseas, so I really don't care about their laws. So when a scammer calls, I tend to answer and play along. Sometimes these calls last a few minutes before they give up on me. Today, I set a new record, a total of 1 hour of their time wasted. The call comes in as normal. I string the guy along, I play dumb, I keep them thinking that I'm an easy target. After 40 minutes, I tell him that I have to hang up and he can call me back in an hour. To my surprise, this idiot calls me back. So I decided to see if I could get him to let me connect to him by continuing to play dumb. My plan is based on knowing that they have a handful of tools at their disposal, easiest of which is TeamViewer. So I play along until they get me on a TeamViewer, but I never give them real information on my end. I just ask for my partner ID. The idea is that with TeamViewer, you can switch who is showing the screen after you make the initial connection. I know that I have but a few precious seconds of time if I manage to get them to give me their ID and password to make my plan happen. So I have a dummy terminal set aside for all of this. I quickly write out my set of commands so I can copy them to my clipboard and launch them as soon as I get connected. Sure enough, they give me their ID and password. I am ready and I strike. I paste the commands into a run window and let it rip. As I see the window pop up with the command prompt, the deletion of the folders begins and the guy starts to stutter and asks, "What are you doing, sir?" I keep playing dumb until my connection is terminated. Files have been deleted. The scammer is pissed. He starts to curse at me. I eventually start taunting him and cursing back at him. After a while, he hangs up. For proof, here's a little sample from the phone call.
Yeah, hi sir. My name is Steve and I'm calling you from the Consumer Protection Department of the refund. To refund back your money, the money which you have paid regarding for your computer maintenance and service. Okay?
Okay, I guess.
So the reason we are calling you because our main server has got crashed down, so we are unable to provide you any kind of services into your computer. That's the reason, sir, we have to refund back your money. All right?
Can I transfer it to my other computer?
No, sir. We are calling you from the refund department, okay, to refund back your money.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
So I believe, sir, you have remember the 9-digit verification code which we have given it to you at the time of service. So can you please tell me that code, sir?
I have no idea.
Okay, no problem, sir. So what I will do, sir, I will help you to regenerate that 9-digit code. So you have to be in front of a computer. Okay?
Okay.
So once your computer is on, sir, then let me know. All right?
Okay, I'm turning it on now.
There's a bunch of time that the scammer spends getting everything all set up so the scam works properly, but if we fast forward till something actually happens, we get to this part.
125-992-34.
031?
You're telling me wrong again and again.
No.
You have to tell me correct.
It's 031.
Oh, 031. What are you doing, sir?
I'm clicking on action.
You're clicking in action?
Yeah.
Sir, you're trying to be smart, right? You're trying to be smart.
I'm not smart.
You're trying to be very smart, man.
I'm not smart at all.
What were you doing at my computer? What were you trying to do?
You told me to connect to your computer.
But what were you trying to do on my computer?
I was doing what you were telling me to do. I was trying to click on action.
No, you're not clicking on action. You're trying to my computer, man.
What? Why do you talk with such language? You kiss your mother with that mouth? You kiss your mother with that mouth? You curse like that to your customers?
You're trying to my computer,
Peter, I don't know anything about computers.
Yeah, how many sisters you have? I'll you one by one. I'll put them together, motherfucker.
First you have to find your
sister fucker.
First you have to find your useless little bitch. Yes, you are a son of a... Oh, you're a happy little scammer. You kiss your mommy with that mouth? You kiss your mommy with that mouth, you stupid little scammer?
I'll kiss sister with that mouth.
Oh,
Why you were trying to be so smart, you motherfucker?
Because you're a little scammer, you little... That's why.
Motherfucker. motherfucker.
Is that all you know how to say in English?
Obviously, some of that was edited out for YouTube, but the full phone call is more than an hour long, so if you want to hear the whole thing, I'll post it in the Am I the Jerk Discord, or if you don't use Discord, I'll post it on the Am I the Jerk Twitter as well. You can find either one of those on the social media link down below in the description. But going back to this story, look, I know they have cloned systems and they will be back up and running in no time at all, but this wasted an hour of their time, and that is an hour they can't use to scam someone else. So, am I the jerk for hacking into a scammer's computer who was hacking into my computer? This guy is a legend. He actually goes through and wastes the time of all these scammers because these scammers are actually preying on some of the most vulnerable people out there. People that are way too old to have the time or take the time to understand technology, and these scammers really exploit that. They find people at their weakest and they try and empty out their bank accounts or try and steal whatever gift cards they have, or you name it, there's a scam for it. So the fact that he would volunteer his time to waste their resources, thus making their scamming operation that much less profitable, is commendable. And this actually seems like it's becoming more and more of a common thing. I see people now that are using voice changers, so they sound like they're old people. There's that one guy that's able to get satellite images of the scammer's headquarters and then send it to them. There's all sorts of sophisticated counter scamming tactics that people use now. And as far as I can tell, that's the first time any of these scamming operations have been challenged. So in this case, the guy actually not only wastes their time, but he actually tries to connect to their computer and delete all of their files. I didn't know if that was actually going to be on the recording, and it turns out it was. That's why I included that one little snippet where it's the moment that the scammer realizes that this whole thing is being reversed on him, and he's the one who's having his computer remotely accessed. So not only did he spend an hour of this guy's time, he's going to have to spend however long it takes to restore those files. The OP doesn't seem to think that it'll take very long to restore, but it's better than nothing. So let me know if you think it was going too far by accessing this guy's computer when the scammer was trying to access his computer, or was it justified? Jerk or not a jerk, and why? Am I the jerk for flipping out on my fiance for canceling all the vegan food options from our wedding food menu behind my back? I'm a 25-year-old female and my 31-year-old fiance and I are getting married soon. There wasn't much that was disagreed on during the wedding planning except for food. Me and my family are vegans, and there are so many reasons why we chose this lifestyle, and one of them being that we have a history of health issues. My fiance and his family are the complete opposite. They're hardcore meat eaters, which is fine by me, obviously. However, when deciding the wedding food menu, I wanted to add 4 to 5 vegan options. My fiance and his mom objected, saying that it was a waste of money over food that isn't real food. They also argued that this would be offensive for their guests and suggested my vegan options just be the good old salads and appetizers. His mom wanted cupcakes. I said no, because for one, it's me and my family who's paying, and two, I want to make my guests feel welcome and not be treated as second-class citizens by being served salad. My fiance made a face and said, "Well, isn't that what vegans eat?" I refused to argue about it and said it was final. The other day I found out that he had canceled all the vegan options and took them off the menu completely. He did this behind my back. I was seething. I called him at work, but he kept hanging up on me. I went straight to his workplace and I confronted him there and just flipped out on him. He was stunned to see me. At first, he said it was his mom's idea, but then he told me to go home because I was making a scene at the office. The fight continued at home. He defended himself by saying that I sort of made him resort to doing this after I kept brushing off his thoughts and his inputs and refusing to accommodate his family. But there were plenty of meat options. Why can't I get 4 to 5 vegan options when I'm paying for it? He yelled that it was his wedding too, not my family's. My family said that it was fine and they'll figure it out, and told me to let it go, but I refused. Here's an update from the future. So his mom messaged me earlier to try and get me to listen to what she had to say after I kept ignoring her phone calls. She sent long walls of text to address what I did at her son's workplace, calling it all kinds of stuff from immature to unhinged. She then went on to explain how she's noticed that me and my family kept acting dismissive of her son's input and his contributions to the wedding. She said she noticed my behavior towards him and towards her entire family and wanted to speak up earlier but didn't and tried to keep the peace. She then went on to address the food menu issue and denied her involvement in the cancellation of the vegan option, but that didn't mean she didn't support her son's decision. Moreover, she thought it was so responsible of him to make that move because of my continual refusal to see how this stuff is just a waste of money. She also pointed out how I kept saying I paid for it and that technically this isn't just my my money. It's mine and his because we're getting married. And she suggested that I wisen up and get rid of my money, I paid for it mentality. She finally mentioned how bad this whole situation is making me look. And she said that her and her son had already offered a number of compromises that I chose to brush off and decided to make it my weird hill to die on. She said that not only is her son upset, but she and her family are as well after hearing about it, and suggested that I just agree on their compromise and be done with it. This pissed me off beyond belief. I responded by letting her know that I'm still standing my ground on this, even if I have to call the whole wedding off. Because honestly, this is just ridiculous. It is. My mom and my dad, they don't even know what to say anymore. Apparently, my fiance saw my response to her. He's with her and is now trying to call me, but right now, I'm waiting on him to get home and see if he's still insisting on the stance he took. The final update. So the talk did not go well. I waited for him to come home so we could have a final conversation about it, but he still insisted on his stance. For more details, his family are a bit on the heavy side. Nothing wrong with that. They're perfectly within their right to decide how they want to live, but they get easily offended at the mention of the words weight and food. I tried so hard to focus on the issue at hand, but I noticed there was a pattern of this behavior. He said it wasn't true, and that this was just an attempt for me to throw past conflicts at him in order to win the current one. He claimed he tried to reason with me about why and how his guests might see those vegan options as offensive. Also said that his family love food and consider it a big deal, and how he didn't want his family to feel like there's certain options that they couldn't touch, and feel that there's a difference in how I treat them versus how I treat my family. He then went on to explain how it's just an event and how my family should just accept what's on the menu, and if they felt inconvenienced, so what? It's just a one-time thing. They're not gonna die if they had salad and appetizers. What he said wasn't a good enough reason for me because his folks are gonna think and say what they want, but at the end of the day, it's my wedding. And to be honest, realizing that my partner himself thinks it's okay to steamroll my opinions and decisions simply because he's prioritizing others and their opinions over me was really upsetting and not something that could be looked past. Normally, I'm a person of rational discussions and compromises. I'm all about compromises. I'd compromised on much bigger matters than just food, but like people said, it's not about the food anymore, if it ever was. Like, he'd literally lose nothing if he let me have what I wanted, but apparently he was willing to lose it all over this, which is fine by me. I gave him the ring back and called everything off. I just couldn't envision myself living like this any longer, having to walk on eggshells for his family and letting him basically override my opinions and have the final say no matter what. Marriage is about compromise, and here he has nothing to lose, yet chose to do this to me and my family. Mind you, this is my first serious relationship and I didn't know what to expect, but it's safe to say that his mom and family did make it feel like I was taking crazy pills on many occasions. So that's that. Last thing he said was that I chose my family over him and ended everything between us for the sake of keeping him happy. The decision's been made and it's done. I just wanted to give this update for those that wanted it. So, was I the jerk for standing my ground after flipping out on my fiance for canceling all the vegan food options from our wedding behind my back? From the way the OP explains the situation, it sounds like the fiance doesn't care about what the OP thinks at all. Like, it's not even taken into account in the slightest. It seems like the OP was open to the idea of logically trying to understand why they wouldn't have vegan options, since that was the route he was trying to go. He was trying to explain it logically, but the logic made no sense. His biggest argument was that he didn't want his family to feel like there's certain options that they couldn't touch. Oh no. What's gonna happen? Is the vegan food gonna contaminate the non-vegan food? If anything, the vegan family should be the one worried about that on the other side. If the meat contaminates the vegan food, because sometimes they share pots and pans and stuff like that. And if the guy hates being around vegan food that much and he hates everything that has to do with vegan food, then why would you marry someone who not only is vegan, but their whole family is vegan as well? That seems like something that should have been resolved long before there was ever a wedding. The husband was the one that made the call, but mostly he was the passive one in the situation. The one who seems like she's really pulling the strings is the mother. She's the one who's sending these walls of texts and calling her names. So if you were the one in the situation and you were about to get married and you found out the person you were about to be married to was unwilling to compromise at all on something like this, would you go through with the wedding or would you call it off? Let me know down below in jerk or not a jerk and why. Am I the jerk for calling my boyfriend a gatekeeper? We just finished watching watching the Black Widow movie, and I told him that I really loved the beginning, but towards the middle, all the action scenes seemed a bit messy and convoluted, and ended up not enjoying it as much. He then said that it was because I didn't understand some inside Easter eggs, because I haven't watched like 50% of the Marvel movies. The thing is, I have watched them, and I'm only missing Infinity War. He proceeds to call me a liar and changed his narrative, saying that I haven't really watched them because I didn't sit down and watch them in order, and because I haven't talked to him about the other movies. I explained to him that I had a life before him, that he can't tell me I haven't watched something that I watched before I even met him, and that it is annoying that he keeps insisting that I haven't watched something and calling me a liar. He even wanted to go through every Marvel movie for me to tell him what they were about and prove to him that I have watched them and that I remember them, because even if I have watched them, if I don't remember small details, that means that I haven't really watched them. Anyway, I told him he sounds like a gatekeeper by telling me I can't comment on the movie or I can't dislike it because I don't meet his standards of what it means to really watch a Marvel movie. I explained the timeline and the character relationships are not difficult to understand. I can connect the dots when watching movies. It's not rocket science. He has now decided to sleep on the couch because he is angry that we had a stupid argument that he started because I called him a gatekeeper and because I can't admit that I haven't watched most Marvel movies. An update from the future, well, I think my 2-year relationship is really over because of Black Widow. I sat him down to have a conversation, but he just kept getting defensive. So am I the jerk for calling my ex-boyfriend a gatekeeper? Why do people care so much about stuff like this? Not the Marvel movies. I totally get people really care about the Marvel movies and the characters and the stories, but specifically, why do they care about this part of it? Whether or not somebody totally gets it and if they have the right or not to speak on this thing because they don't have the full understanding, even though she has seen the movies. It's one thing to say that I saw all the movies too, I interpret it differently, and here's why, versus what this sounds like is just somebody berating somebody else, accusing them of lying when we can only assume she doesn't have a history of lying for no reason. And if that's the norm, then you probably don't want to be with this person in the first place. Am I the jerk for taking back a gift from a fake baby? I work at a popular clothing retailer, and I enjoy my job very much. My coworkers are great, customers are bearable, but one coworker, Rhonda, has been making my work life a living hell recently. We've worked together for a couple of years now and things were great. I could even say that we were work friends. She invited me to her daughter's baby shower last month and I agreed to go. What I didn't know was that this was not a regular baby shower. I arrived with a gift and was talking to my other coworkers that were there, and we figured out that none of us had met the daughter. Rhonda had introduced her daughter to our little group and I congratulated her and thanked her for having us. She laughed and then said something like, "Thank you, but I'm not quite pregnant yet, but it's always good to be prepared for when the time comes." I was visibly confused, which seemed to offend her. After she walked away from our group, my coworker explained that Rhonda had told her when they arrived that this isn't a regular baby shower and her daughter had been feeling down because quite a few of her friends had been pregnant. I asked the friends if they knew beforehand and they said no, and that they were confused why they were asked to buy gifts, but decided not to make a big deal about it. I asked Rhonda why she wouldn't tell us that it wasn't a baby shower for a specific baby, and she explained, "The physical invitations explained it all. It is a party for her daughter to shower her with love." Well, none of us co-workers got physical invitations. I asked Rhonda if I could take my gift back since I'm not made of money, and I would prefer to get her daughter a gift when she was actually having a baby. Rhonda said that it would be rude if I took the gift back after giving it, and that her daughter was going through a lot and was looking forward to presents. I said, "I'm sorry, I can't do this." I took my gift and I left. The daughter sent me hateful messages on Facebook, including calling me a disrespectful old bee and a bad friend to Rhonda. I feel bad for storming off and taking the gift if it was going to cause this much grief. And I also realized that I grabbed a gift that was on top of mine that was from my coworker, and she said she wants me to bring it back to her and to not give it to Rhonda and her daughter. But Rhonda found this out and is threatening to go to HR if I don't return the gifts. And in addition to that, she wants me to buy something else off the registry. Most of the items in the registry aren't even for babies, for all the suffering that I've caused. If anyone cares, I will talk to HR on Monday. An update from the future, Rhonda admitted to stealing, damaging our merchandise and then taking it home and got fired for it. She will not be missed. Nothing came of the HR investigation, but thankfully she was fired for something else. So was I the jerk for taking back the gift because I was lied to about this baby? I'm not surprised the HR investigation didn't lead anywhere because this isn't really a work matter. This is stuff they're doing on their own outside of work property, but maybe some HRs still care about that bad regardless. The part that's baffling is that they try to basically con all of the coworkers into giving gifts for a baby that doesn't exist because the daughter feels bad that she isn't having a baby? What? This can't be a normal thing, right? And their only defense was that this was all explained on the physical invitation cards that they didn't even get in the first place. I would not feel bad at all about taking the gift back because you were brought there under false pretenses and then they just pulled this rug out from under you only after you spent the time coming there and spent the money buying this gift for a baby that doesn't even exist. So what would you do if you spent money and time on a fake baby? Let me know down below in jerk or not a jerk and why. My girlfriend thinks that she becomes a demon when she sleeps. A literal demon as in possession. I didn't believe her until I saw it. Here's what happened. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk on YouTube and hit the bell to turn on notifications. Before we jump in, just want to let you know this is a spooky story. My girlfriend talks in her sleep. She's been saying the most horrible things recently, but I'm infatuated with her. Utterly infatuated. And it wasn't at a healthy level. Far from it. I would think about her every moment she was away. I would sometimes sit on my couch and just stare at my phone waiting for her to text. I'd tell myself, don't contact her. Don't. It will come off as too strong. But then I'd still find myself clicking her name on my contact list before my inner voice would continue. You don't want her to know how desperately smitten you are with her. It's unattractive. It will scare her off. No. You must wait for her to call you this time, but it was excruciating and exhausting, almost unbearable. I once heard that the ancient Greeks believed that falling madly and irrationally in love with someone was a curse that you would wish upon your enemies. I could never understand what they meant. After all, isn't falling head over heels in love the ultimate goal nowadays? But now that it's happened to me, I have to say, the ancient Greeks were right. This is a curse. I was barely in control of myself, almost as though my infatuation with her had possessed me. The two of us were in the phase where we were being frisky together, but still in the dating phase. We were at the make or break era of a blossoming relationship where we'd either have the talk and formally be in a relationship, or we would slowly start to drift apart. The latter of which I don't think I would be able to cope with. Honestly, I wouldn't be able to. Almost everything about her captivated me. The way she held her hand over her mouth when she laughed, how she'd caress the pendant of her necklace when she was frightened, how she'd twirl her hair in her finger when she was excited, all of it. Her smell, her smile, her eyes. Yeah, I know, it probably makes you sick hearing about it. I feel the same way. I was never the hopeless romantic type, but now I can't stop fantasizing about her. I'd think about us doing the long 3-hour hike up to that magnificent view from one of our first dates, to that first kiss, as we overlook the lights of the city. But this time, I'd get down on one knee, bring out the ring, and, well, you know what would happen next. Alright, fine, I'll stop. Yes, this is a girl that I'd only been casually dating for a couple of months. I shouldn't be thinking about proposing yet. I know that. I'm just barely able to control myself any longer. I feel as though I'm losing power over the decisions I make. And that brings me to why I'm here, writing this out at the moment. It started with the very first real thing that troubled me about her. We'd never actually spent a night together. No matter how late she was over, once either of us showed signs of being tired, she'd up and leave. She wouldn't leave awkwardly or in anger, just a casual kiss goodnight, a smile, and call me soon. It was something I didn't really even notice the first few times she did it, but after almost 8 weeks of dating, it was becoming strange. I'd have to ask her about it. It took drinking almost an entire bottle of wine before I had the courage to do it. She looked almost defeated when I asked her and lowered her eyes in embarrassment and said, "I knew this talk would come eventually." She started. She took in a deep breath with a long drawn out exhale. "Recently," she paused again, "I've started talking in my sleep." She shook her head in embarrassment. "It's called somniloquy. I looked it up." I shrugged and laughed out loud. My demeanor seemed to say, "That's it?" "No, Stephen, listen," she said. She wasn't laughing. "It's bad. It's completely out of control. It's not just random words or gibberish. No, it's horrible. I say horrible, disgusting things." She was starting to raise her voice, breathe heavy, and tear up. I approached her and held her. I told her it couldn't be that bad. I told her to spend the night, and I told her she was probably exaggerating. I was wrong. That night she stayed at my house, but she warned me of something before falling asleep. "Whatever you do, don't wake me up. It makes me really scared and disoriented if that happens. And don't respond to me. Just ignore it." I nodded and agreed. "If it becomes too much," she continued, "just leave the room and sleep on the couch. I won't mind." I told her not to worry about it. I told her it wouldn't be a big deal. I told her I wouldn't leave to the couch. I'd stay beside her in the bed. But I was wrong. I couldn't even last one night. We both fell asleep without incident. I don't know how many hours passed, but I woke up in the dark with a sensation that someone was watching me. And then I remembered she was with me. She was actually spending the night. I smiled, but then I noticed the shadowy outline of her sitting up on the bed. She was looking down at me, staring. It creeped me out. I'll admit it. Her posture was entirely different. It was though she wasn't even her at all. Then she spoke. It wasn't her voice that I heard. It was much lower and gravelly, like something out of a horror movie.
"I'll chew the skin from your bones."
I froze. At first, I just kept looking at her. This is not at all what I expected. I thought it would be more like the way that Tourette's is often portrayed, just some random swearing and shouting. I honestly thought to myself, what will I do if she attacks me right now? What if she really does try to chew the skin from my bones? But then, she just lied down and went to sleep. I was creeped out. I tried to lie back down and ignore her, but struggled. I couldn't even close my eyes without thinking, maybe she's sitting up again and staring at me. And then one time I rolled over to look at her, and she was. Her face was pressed right towards mine. Her breath was foul and rotted, something that was most certainly not normal for her. She spoke again in the same voice as before.
"If you don't move to the couch, you'll be dead by morning."
That did it for me. I sat up in a moment and headed for the living room. She made some sort of wheezing sound as I left. I think it was supposed to be laughter. I was lying on the couch, but I wasn't going to be able to fall asleep. I was far too shaken. I was staring out towards the window, hoping to see the first few hints of the sun rising. And then I thought I heard something from the bedroom. I listened, and then I heard it again.
"Stay then."
It was that same low and gravelly voice. It sounded like a witch. I tried to ignore it at first, but then it continued.
"Stay then."
Still, I said nothing.
"I know you can hear me, Stephen. You're awake now. Why don't you come back into the bedroom?"
The voice barely sounded human.
"Or maybe you'd prefer if I come to you."
I still didn't say anything. I was told not to, but I listened. If I heard her start walking towards the bedroom door, I'm not even joking, I would have run right out of the apartment. But she had asked me not to respond to her in her sleep talking, so I didn't. And then I heard her once more.
"Sorry if this spoils your plans."
She began laughing.
"The two of you were supposed to walk that trail again."
She started. I wasn't even remotely prepared for what she'd say next.
"You'd both be so tired when you'd reach the top. You'd look over the city. Then you'll get down on one knee and bring out the ring."
She began laughing. And that's when I realized this wasn't just a problem with sleep talking. It was something much more. Something supernatural. I had never told anyone about my proposal fantasy. There was simply no way she could have known about any of it. This was no longer about merely talking in one sleep. This was about possession. I can't go back into the bedroom. I have no idea what would happen if I did. Instead, I'm going to wait it out, holding up in my living room until the sun rises. I have a couple more hours yet. I can hear her laughing occasionally in the bedroom. It's still not her voice. Still that same low-pitched cackle. But as I sit on my couch writing this out, here is what scares me the most. Maybe my infatuation and utter obsession with her wasn't normal. I said before that I felt like I was losing control of myself. More so I believed in the typical falling in love story. No. I fear that the infatuation that I felt was the entity slowly taking control of me, of it controlling my thoughts, my fears, my ambitions, and anxieties. Maybe once I become completely absorbed, a transfer would occur and she would be free of it. I know I should leave. That I should just open the front door, get in my car, and drive away from here. But I can't. I can't leave her. I've already lost control. I'm infatuated with her. Utterly infatuated. This was probably the creepiest story we've ever seen on the channel. As soon as the OP started describing how the infatuation was out of his control at the beginning, I had a feeling that it was going to be some sort of voodoo type thing. I didn't expect him to actually think it was a supernatural explanation and that this thing was just possessing her, was using the infatuation to transfer over to him. I guess transfer itself over to him. If I was in this situation and I saw this happening, I just would have left right away. But I guess that's the whole issue, because he wanted to do that, but he was still held captive by his infatuation for her, even when he was terrified of her. I wish we got to see what happened after this, if they had an awkward conversation about what happened that night, and if he still planned to stick around with her even though he has this issue. I'm guessing he will, because he can't help but want to be with her. Before I forget to mention, we're actually looking for someone to help us work on some scary videos like this one. So if you have video making experience and you'd like to work on videos like this with us, there's a link down below where you can send us your previous work. This wouldn't be for Am I the Jerk, it would be for a new project. But going back to the story, if you found out this was happening to your girlfriend and you just discovered it happening, would you continue to be with her? What would you do in the situation? A situation where you actually think your girlfriend is possessed by a demon? Let me know down below. I got a fridge lockbox and it's destroying my relationship. Some background. I'm a 25-year-old female and my 28-year-old boyfriend and I have been together for 5 years. We've lived together for 3. Our relationship was great, truly. We have a joint account and contribute to it monthly to handle joint expenses, rents, groceries, etc. Everything else is split. My boyfriend is 6'3" and 200 pounds and works out daily. He eats a lot to keep up his caloric intake, which is fine except for one issue. We buy snacks and he always eats my half before I can even get to it. Normal food and ingredients he's fine with, but if it's quickly accessible, I'll never get any. We argue. He apologizes, rinse and repeat. This is literally the only bad thing he's done. Seriously, in all other aspects of our relationship, he's respectful and considerate. Snacks are where all bets are off. Anyways, last week I lost it after he finished an expensive cheese we had gotten that I was really looking forward to eating. It was all gone after an hour. I lost it. I didn't speak to him for a day and ended up ordering a fridge lockbox. After our next snack run a couple days later, I divided each snack in half and locked mine in the lockbox in the fridge. From his reaction, you would think that I was murdering puppies. He said it was disrespectful and controlling, and how dare I keep the food that he paid for from him. When I reminded him my money went into it too, he screamed that he didn't give a care and then left. He slammed the door so hard a picture fell off the wall and broke. He didn't come back until the next day. But that was the change for work and left immediately. He came home late and went straight to the guest room. 4 days of this. I broke last night and I asked him to please talk about it, and he said that he had nothing to say to me until I got rid of the lockbox. Honestly, I'm completely appalled at his reaction, and I'm genuinely worried that he may be on substances or having a mental break or something. This is the most irrationally I've ever seen a grown man react. He's ignored me only to randomly ask if I've gotten rid of the lockbox. I am not getting rid of the lockbox. We're supposed to renew our lease next week. I'm considering cutting my losses and just leaving. Is this relationship even worth salvaging? Is there anything I can do to solve this? He is refusing to communicate unless I get rid of the lockbox, which is not happening. Update from the future. Hey guys, I don't know if anyone wanted an update, but here it is. A lot happened. My boyfriend kept staying out late and refusing to talk. So I tried to talk to my boyfriend about the lockbox again. And I mentioned that I didn't think the lockbox was the real issue, but he was a brick wall. He insisted that it's abusive and controlling to deny him food. I kept pushing, asking if he was on substances or cheating. I said him flipping out over something so small and staying out at all hours was very suspicious. I said that I thought he was using the lockbox as an excuse to be out of the house doing something bad. Me saying that unleashed an hours-long screaming tantrum that ultimately resulted in him throwing my MacBook against the wall, shattering it. Honestly, I really thought he was gonna hurt me. So yeah, I called my dad, who called the cops. I don't want to get too into the legality of it, but I'm pressing charges for destruction of property. It was a $2,500 laptop. My dad and godfather got me moved out yesterday, and now I'm looking for a new place. I don't have a lot except for clothes, a couple of kitchen appliances. I left the lockbox, but took my snacks with me because F him. I left it locked too. My now ex-boyfriend has been spamming me. I'd block him, but I feel like I need this for evidence in case his behavior escalates. I texted him the first night that we are done, took our photos down, everything. He began ranting at me. Here are some gems. Raging about how I still didn't get rid of the lockbox, asking for stuff he gifted me back, telling me I owe him money and rent for his new place, that I owe him a new car. I have no idea why he would say this. I have never even driven his current car, and that my MacBook was old and worthless and he wouldn't pay for a new one. I bought it last year brand new. After about an hour, I guess he realized that we actually were broken up and that he couldn't talk me down anymore. Then came the paragraphs about how he was gonna marry me, he loves me, he wants to be better for me, that I can keep the gifts and he'll buy me a better MacBook. He freaked out over seeing I took our pictures down from social media. He then started sending me screenshots of his Google searches of engagement rings and telling me to just pick one. He also sent a couple voice messages of him just sobbing. Any respect I had for him as a person is just completely gone. I want nothing to do with this man. I don't care if he's having a breakdown or on something. He's not my problem. I screenshotted his messages and forwarded them to his mother. She can deal with her son. That's the most I'll ever do for him again. As for me, I'll be okay. I have some savings, so taking on full rent for a place as well as a deposit and fees won't be too much. This has been a weird week. I feel like I should be sad, but like I said, I lost all respect and I don't even feel anything but disdain for him. My parents have been buying me my favorite comfort snacks and being super supportive. They're gently pushing for therapy, and I think that that's probably a good idea. I'll start my search once I'm settled into a new place. But to you, was I the jerk in the first place for getting a fridge lockbox that led to all of this? I don't think that the OP is in the wrong here at all. I think she saw bizarre behavior, stuck up for herself, and handled it the best way she knew how to. I think that part is more straightforward. The part that's not so straightforward is what exactly about this lockbox made him so upset? Was it the perceived disrespect of being treated like a child? Because if that's the case, maybe he felt that, but he couldn't articulate that for some reason. Or maybe it wasn't that. Maybe it had something to do even more specific in his childhood. Maybe he was in a family situation where he wasn't able to have food that he accessed and he thought he got over that as an adult, and now this reminds him of that and he doesn't even realize it. I mean, there can be so many possible explanations as to what is really the root of him behaving this way. The OP seems to think that he was on substances or cheating. I don't really see that connection at all, but anything is possible since we don't really have any more information to go off of. I really do think that a lot of times people have the most emotional reactions to things that have to do with food. I mean, there's a reason we use the term comfort food, and there's a reason why cultures all over the world are intimately intertwined with food. It's almost like it's one and the same for some cultures. There's something about people's relationship to food that goes deeper than a lot of other things for some reason. I mean, there's even people that as kids, if they only had a very small amount of time to eat or also would have their food taken away, they just learn to eat extremely fast. They don't enjoy the food, they don't even taste the food, they just shove it down as fast as they can. And as adults, some people are never able to change those eating habits. It's a complicated subject. None of it justifies him throwing her MacBook at the wall. That is just nuts. But let me know what your theory is down below about this whole fridge lockbox situation and what might be the cause of it at the root. And of course, a jerk or not a jerk, and why. Am I the jerk for going home after I overheard my husband say that he didn't want to bring me with him to his family vacation? My husband goes on annual vacations with his family. I'm on okay terms with them, but since we've only been married for a short time and I don't see his family much, we still have that barrier that keeps us from being completely comfortable around each other. His family arranged for the vacation last week. I, out of curiosity, asked if I could come. My husband felt hesitant, but I told him it'd be a great opportunity to get to know his family better. He agreed to take me, and his family were surprised to see me, but still welcomed me. On the third day of vacation, his dad, mom, brothers, and spouses were all sitting at a table outside talking while I was preparing a fruit salad. As I was making my way back, I overheard my mother-in-law say, "Did she really have nowhere else to spend the weekend?" At first, I had no idea who she was talking about, so I kept on walking, but stopped once I overheard my husband say, "I know, and I didn't want to bring her with me because what was I supposed to do? You know how pushy she can get." I instantly figured it was about me. I felt so shaken up to the point where I almost dropped the salad. This whole time I was there, I cleaned, I cooked, I looked after the kids, and this is how they think of me? An inconvenience to them? I quietly booked a ticket and went home on the first plane. He called and texted, but I didn't respond anything other than let him know that I was home. He got back and went off on me, saying what I did was disrespectful and juvenile. I told him I overheard the conversation he had with his mom, but he said that I was wrong for eavesdropping and that his family will warm up to me on their terms, so I should stop pushing to be around when they don't feel comfortable with it. Basically saying it was my fault for coming along in the first place. He said that going home how I did made him and his family disappointed and gave them a really bad impression about me. I think that I might have messed this up and somewhat ruined it for them as well. Am I the jerk? No, you're not the jerk. The husband just seems spineless. If he didn't want you to go on that trip, he should have said, I don't want you to go on this trip. And if he wanted to explain it, he could have explained it. He could have said, this is between me and my family. And then they could have had that conversation if that was something they wanted to do or not. But this guy is just playing both sides. He's trying to put on the fake smile to the wife and then trying to appease his family at the same time. It's just two-faced. And the last people you want to be two-faced to in life are the people you care about the most. Your family, and in this case, your wife. But let me know how you see the situation down below, and jerk or not a jerk, and why.
When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.